Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all here. Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, it's been a while since we've spoken. It feels like forever. It's only been a couple of days, but so much has transpired in those 2 or 3 days that we haven't spoken that there's so much to cover. But, nothing trumps the quarterback decision that Ron Rivera had to make really relatively early this week. He said after the game he was going to make that decision early because he wanted to give that guy an opportunity to work all week long. Most of us who have been watching his team intently that didn't have a bias, okay, understood what decision was going to be made after the 49ers game. And I had already explained to you guys that going into the game, Taylor Heinicke's leash was as short as it's been all season long because Wentz was finally healthy. He was finally backing up Taylor Heinicke. And if Heinicke did not get it done, that Giants game was huge. We talked about the implications of him not winning that game. And he did not play well enough in that game, as I described. It wasn't just him, just like it wasn't just him in this 49ers game. But we keep having the same conversations every week. This is an offense that scores roughly 20 points a week. We scored 20 again on Saturday versus the San Francisco 49ers. And he imploded in the fourth quarter. And again, it wasn't just him. And, the sad part about what happened on Saturday against the 49ers was that Heinicke actually played well in that first half. And really, he played well for the first 3 quarters of that game, if you want to be honest, because we should have been leading at halftime. That should have been a 14-0 game before the 49ers got on the scoreboard. And we should have been dominating that game early. And who knows what happens if you get up 14-0 on a young quarterback who's been able to be comfortable playing with a lead in just about every single game. Who knows what happens if they're playing from behind? But we never really put them in that position. Jahan Dotson drops a touchdown. We go for it on 4th down and get denied at the goal line. You put yourself in a tough spot, not being able to take advantage of opportunities. And Heinicke was actually dealing in this game. You had a Jahan Dotson 39-yard catch deleted by a holding penalty. We still scored on that drive, so it's not that big of a deal, but still. Heinicke, I thought he was throwing the football well. And there were some misses in there. There was a Jahan Dotson catch where it literally that defender could have caught it. It went through his hands. Dotson's playing around with it and then somehow snatches it out of the air, and it's a catch. It wasn't a good throw from Heinicke, but it accomplished what it was meant to accomplish, which was a catch and a first down. I thought he was sharp. I thought he was sharp early in that game. And then the fourth quarter happened. And it sucks because it went from, hey, if we lose this game, 27-20 with no turnovers, I don't know if we're having this discussion. But he implodes in that fourth quarter with the fumble, and he was getting beat up too. Late in that game, they were starting to really beat him up pretty good. And then he throws the pick, and you could argue that there was just a miscommunication between he and Brian Robinson. Robinson stopped on the play like he was sitting down in some sort of zone. Heinicke expected him to continue, and your end result is a pick, or it might have been vice versa. Heinicke thought he was going to stop. Robinson continued. He threw it right to the defender. Whatever the case may be, it was a bad look, right? Brian Robinson needs to touch that guy down too, not just sit there with your arms out like, hey, what the hell? This isn't college football. He's not down till you touch him. But it was a shame because you hated to see Heinicke's, run as the starter end in that fashion. But I told you, I said, if Heinicke played the way that he played against the Giants in the first half against San Francisco, which he didn't, I said he'd be benched at halftime. And it happened in the fourth quarter, and he got benched. And, Ron can dress it up any way he wanted to about wanting to protect him. He was getting beat up. What was eye-popping was the fact that once Carson Wentz came in, the 49ers unleashed the holy hell of blitzes. Like, they started blitzing on every single snap. It's almost as if they said, oh, we know you can't handle the blitz. And they just started sending it. That's not even who they are defensively. They just started coming out of every nook and cranny. I'm like, are you kidding me? They're telling us how they feel about Carson Wentz and his ability or inability, and this offensive line's ability or inability to hold up against the blitz. But Wentz actually handled it well. Came in, made an off-schedule play to Jonathan Williams where it looked like he was going to be sacked. Found a couple of receivers on some plays where there was pressure, got rid of it. And then a beautiful toss to Curtis Samuel on a third down for the touchdown to give us a chance. I mean, at that time, it's 30-20. You get the 2-point conversion. We got ourselves a ball game. We got all 3 timeouts and 5 minutes left. But, of course, in typical Scott Turner fashion, the 2-point play was as disastrous as it gets. You've got a tight end sifting, supposedly blocking the best pass rusher in the league. Yeah, right. That play was dead on arrival. But Wentz showed that, hey, I'm good now. If you want to come to me, I'm good. And I thought that was all the ammunition Ron and company needed. So Ron made it official today. They made the move to Carson Wentz. And I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't see it coming. And I also would be lying to you if I said I'm not intrigued by what Carson Wentz may be able to bring to the table, late in the season, as a spark, as Ron called him, a spark. Look, the one reason I wanted Heinicke in, I shouldn't say the one, the most glaring reason I wanted Heinicke in was because of his mobility. A mobility that he failed to use time and time again, that he refused to use at times during the course of this 3-game losing streak that we were on. And so as you take away the biggest weapon that I was excited to gain when Heinicke took over, I'm less inclined to roll with him moving forward because, as we know, and you can sit here and deny this all you want, but as we know, the upside of this offense is greater with that of Carson Wentz than it is Taylor Heinicke. It always has been, always will be. Carson Wentz started the first 5 games of the season. The 2 highest point totals and outputs of the season were achieved in the first 2 games of the season. And really, it was really 3 quarters of the Jacksonville game. We were horrible in the third quarter. And 2 quarters of the Lions game. So in 5 quarters of football, we essentially scored all of our points in the first 2 games, 28 and 27 respectively. We haven't touched 27 points since. The closest we've come in that time is the 26 we put up against the Eagles on a Monday night in week 10. We haven't hit 27 again. So we know that the upside of this offense is at its greatest with 11 under center. That's not up for debate. We also know that Carson Wentz wasn't afforded Brian Robinson in his first stint, essentially. Robinson was just coming back in that Tennessee game. He got him for an additional week against Chicago, and that was ultimately Wentz's last start to date. So he didn't really get the full Brian Robinson experience. The defense wasn't playing well yet. And the offensive line hadn't yet stabilized itself. Now, has the offensive line regressed a bit? Maybe. That's debatable. I didn't think they were terrible against the 49ers until like the very end of Heinicke being in the game. They actually weren't that bad. And Rivera even said, you guys are more concerned about the line than I am. I won't go as far as to say I'm not as concerned. I'm concerned about the line. I've been concerned all year long after the Lions' first half. I've been pretty concerned about the offensive line. And they've never really given me a reason not to be since then. However, if they can do some of the things they did in that fourth quarter against the 49ers, because the 49ers blitz. I heard some people saying, oh yeah, the 49ers were in prevent defense. They weren't like, what were you watching? what are you talking about? They were blitzing on almost every down. Carson Wentz was in the game. They came after him with the kitchen sink on just about every single snap on that touchdown drive. Are you kidding me? Like, if that wasn't an audition for Carson Wentz, it's almost as if Carson Wentz, Scott Turner, and Ron Rivera went over to the 49ers defensive staff and D'Amico Ryans and said, hey, can we scrimmage this can we script this last drive of Wentz in the game offensively? Can we script this and have you guys really pressure him to see if he's gotten better and got a better command and handle of the offense, to see how he handles some live bullets and some pressure? Can you guys just blitz on every down and see how he does? It was like, sure, no problem, Ron. We'll throw some looks at him. Hey, man, really do appreciate it. Like, it was a scrimmage. It felt like a scrimmage. Like, they're coming after this dude. This is crazy. And he handled it well. I was impressed. I'm not going to lie to you. Is it the right decision, however? Only time will tell. This is what I feel. This is how I felt after the 49ers game. If you want different results, you have to try something else. We've had a large enough sample size of Heinicke. And I told you guys this after we lost to the Giants. Heinicke has been playing mid-football this entire stretch that he started. The only thing that was blinding many of you is that he was winning. And as long as he's winning, you're not going to get any complaints out of me. I'm going to still tell you, hey, this is some mid-ball we getting out of this dude. I mean, this is as mid as it gets. All right. But he's winning ball games. You won't get any complaints out of me. There were moments, second half against Green Bay, most of the game against Philadelphia, the first time in week 10, there were some moments where he was outstanding, but for the most part, and there were moments, final drive against the Giants the first time around, first drive of the third quarter against the Giants the second time around. There were some moments where you go, yo, Heinicke's in his bag right now. Fourth quarter drive against the Colts, on that fourth down when we had to have it. Like, there were times when he was in his bag, but there were way more times where you go, what the F was that? Why are you turning it over here? The throw at the end of the first half against Atlanta, the pick he threw against Minnesota that cost us that game, or at least helped cost us that game. There plays plenty of those, and there's turnovers in every single game except Houston. Like, I'm not telling you that Wentz is going to come in and the turnovers are going to cease, because Wentz turns the ball over too. But the ability to overcome the turnovers, the margin for error is greater if Wentz is on his grizzy. All right. If Wentz is in his bag, we can score 27 or 28. With Heinicke, we didn't do that once. We did not. And in order to get 26 against Philadelphia, we had to force 4 turnovers. 4. What did we score in that game? I got to stop saying 26. We scored 33, didn't we? We scored that last touchdown at the very end, right? It was 32-20. So we scored 32 points. Let me correct myself. Okay. We scored 32 points in that game. That's the highest output of the season. But again, the last play of the game. That's why I keep saying 26, because they did the throw around thing. It fumbled. Casey Tuill picked it up, ran it in the end zone. That's how we got 32. But that counts too. Shit. I'm not demeaning that. That's 32 points. All right. That's our season high this year. Heinicke was responsible in part for 26 of that. Okay. Other than that game, this offense failed to score more than 23 points in every single one of his starts. His first start was against Green Bay. That was 23 points. His second start was against Indianapolis, 17 points. His third start was against the Vikings, 17 points. Fourth start was against the Eagles. That was a 32-pointer there. The fifth start was against the Texans, 23 points. or excuse me, yeah, the Texans 23 points. Then the Falcons was his 6th start, and that was 19 points. You see where I'm going with this? You see the theme, right? The start after that, his 7th start was the Giants game, 20 points. And then his final start, or the next game against the Giants, 12 points. And then his final start, 20 points. And he wasn't responsible for the last 6. So you saw the trend. This offense wasn't maximizing opportunities. They weren't getting in the end zone. They weren't scoring a bunch of points. The margin for error was small. He was making mistakes every single game. He did his job. It's not unlike Cooper Rush for the Cowboys earlier in the season. He did his job. Without Taylor Heinicke's contribution, we're not here. We're not having a discussion about needing to win the final 2 games to get into the playoffs. We're dead. Okay? These 2 things can be true, that we need better out of the position, but we wouldn't be here without him. Those 2 things can exist in individual lanes. They don't have to be mashed together, right? I think the move to Wentz is the right thing to do now. Because you need a spark. You need to find out if you can have more on offense at this point. When he was winning, as long as he's winning, I'm sticking with it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, it's not. It's broken now. He's not winning anymore. So now it is broken. Now it is time to try and fix it. So let's give Wentz a look. He's healthy. He's moving around better. See what he's got. I'm going to tell you right now, it wasn't a hard decision for Ron to make. I think this decision was made directly after the 49ers game. Before they got on the flight, he knew what he was going to do. There was no reason to disclose that at that time. But he knew what he was going to do. Here's the thing. It better work. He's not getting fired if it doesn't. But Heinicke is well loved in that locker room. Not liked, loved. Remember, most of these guys were on the team with Heinicke for the last, let's call it a year and a half. The back end of 2020, all of last year, all of this year. And he was the starter for pretty much the last 2 seasons, essentially. So there's an attachment to him in that locker room. There are guys in that locker room that don't agree with this decision. And not every player is going to agree with decisions that the head coach makes. That's any job. It's not just sports teams. It's any job. You're not always going to agree with decisions that your supervisor or manager makes. What are you going to do? Right? They call a play, you run it. Don't have to agree with it, but if you're not in a position to call an audible, you just run the play, even if you know it's dead on arrival. Logan Thomas already said, Taylor Heinicke's my best friend on the team. I don't like this, but what am I going to do? You could see some of the guys not really thrilled with the fact that Wentz was getting in the game on Sunday because they felt like not because they don't like Carson Wentz, not because they dislike Carson Wentz, but they felt like they let Taylor Heinicke down because he did play well. Even Wentz said it himself. He was dealing in the first half. He was dealing in the third quarter. This is a 21-14 game. Late stages of the third, after he throws that touchdown pass to Terry in the end zone. We give up a quick drive, and they settle for a field goal. The very first play of the fourth quarter is a Robbie Gould field goal to give the 49ers a 24-14 lead. And then Heinicke implodes. Fumble, defense holds up, field goal. Fumble, defense holds up, field goal. But now it's 30-14. Not fumble, interception rather. Field goal. If, God forbid, the defense didn't hold up, we gave up 40-something, damn near 50 points. And the defense was not okay, absolved of wrongdoing because George Kittle had 6 catches for 100 and some change, okay, like 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. That shit was embarrassing. Though one of the things we said, don't allow this to happen in the game was, hey, I know we have issues with the tight end. Just slow George Kittle down. I'm not telling you to stop the man. I'm just telling you not to allow this man to single-handedly win some people fantasy leagues. Don't let him do that. We did. But anyway, that's another story, and a discussion for another day. The bottom line is you got players in that locker room who don't necessarily agree with this move, but they're going to roll with it. And you've got a fan base that's not necessarily split. I think the Heinicke hive is a lot louder than the mass and the majority. I think it's similar to the Kirk Cousins situation. The people that couldn't stand Kirk Cousins, they were louder. All right, because as we all know, as a wise man once told me, the weak start riots. All right, the strong move silent, the weak start riots. When you don't feel like your voice is being heard, you get louder, you get rowdier. That's what the disgruntled in the fan base tend to do. Get loud and honoring. The ones that are rational usually don't say anything. I think that's how it is with Taylor Heinicke. The Heinicke hive is real. It exists, but I don't think it's the majority of the fan base. I think the majority of the fan base understands that Heinicke is not the answer at the quarterback position. It may not be Wentz, but they know it's not Heinicke. But you've got a portion of this fan base, and it's a significant one. Okay, it may not be the majority, but you've got a significant portion of this fan base that feels like Heinicke should still be starting. And if for no other reason than we paid Wentz $28 million and we gave away draft capital for him, that they're pissed off about that, and we had to cut some guys like Landon Collins and Eric Flowers and Matt Ioannidis to get him, if not for no other reason than those, they don't want to see him in there. They're over him. If you go to Wentz and this thing doesn't work, and we miss the playoffs, there's going to be a lot of finger pointing, and it's going to start with Ron Rivera. And again, who's to say what would have happened if Heinicke would have started the final 2 games of the season? Who's to say what would have happened? The man's on a 2-game skid, and if you want to go back to the 3rd game, that's a tie. So it's not like he was playing lights out before he got benched. But he was part of the reason why you were here in the first place, right? At one point this season, he was 5-1 as a starter. Anyway, it's a big decision by Ron Rivera. I talked about this about a month ago when I said the final month or so of the season, even if it bleeds into the playoffs and we're playing deep into January, this final stretch of the season is going to go a long way in determining what the quarterback position looks like, what this team's central focus is going to be, how they're going to go about business in the offseason. I talked about what it would mean if Wentz got back in here, got an opportunity, seized that opportunity, and took advantage of it, and we won. What that would mean. The opportunity is being presented to him. Ron Rivera essentially rolled the dice on Carson Wentz. This is Wentz's opportunity to repay Ron Rivera, Scott Turner, and company by getting the job done, getting this team to the playoffs, winning a playoff game, and reassuring them that they didn't make a mistake, that the $28 million was worth it. The 3rd round pick that they're surrendering this year was worth it. The 3rd round pick they surrendered last year, worth it. It's all worth it. We're going to find out. He's got 2 weeks Last year, he had 2 games to win 1 to get the Colts into the playoffs. We're going to always say he failed to do that. But if you went back and watched those games, they failed to do that. Wentz wasn't great. Neither was the rest of the team, especially in week 18 versus Jacksonville. He's got 2 games, need to win both really, to get this team into the playoffs. Can he rewrite the narrative? It's out there. It's a thing. Everyone expects him to choke. That's what Carson Wentz does. Can he rewrite the narrative? Can he change the perspective on who he is as a quarterback in this league? He's going to get the opportunity. We know what the weapons are on this team. We know what's capable if you get a guy that can take advantage of all of this talent that we have. Wentz can do that better than Heinicke can. We'll see what happens. Ron just made a decision that's one way or the other going to go a long way in defining his tenure here in Washington. If he's right and Wentz wins here, then that would have meant every step of the way this season, he's pushed the right button, whether you agreed with it or not. Started the season off with Wentz. We don't beat Jacksonville. Even though Wentz tried to single-handedly give that game away, we don't win that game without Carson Wentz. That Bears game wasn't pretty by any stretch of the imagination. We're in that game. We win that game. Again, it wasn't pretty, but we got it done. Right? Who knows? My sister always would say, if Heinicke was in from the beginning, you guys would have won more games. I don't know if that's true or not. I have no way of knowing that. With the way our offensive line was struggling, and there wasn't a damn thing Taylor Heinicke was going to do against Philadelphia or Detroit early in the season. Maybe Detroit. But he wasn't going to do a damn thing against Philadelphia or Dallas with the way that pressure was coming in those 2 games in particular. But once Wentz went down and he inserted Heinicke and he had a chance to go back to Wentz, he didn't. And they left Wentz on IR a little bit longer than if Heinicke was struggling, they probably could have gone back to Wentz sooner. Probably could have started his clock a little bit sooner. But similar to Chase Young, they were able to take their time with him because they were winning. The defense was playing well. There's no reason to rush. You see that there wasn't a sense of urgency for Chase to come back until we started struggling and we started losing ball games and we really needed him. Now Ron's like, bro, what the F? I thought you were coming back against Atlanta. I thought you were coming back against, and then we started going down the list like, bro, when is it going to be time? We needed you against the Giants. We need all hands on deck against San Francisco. If they needed Wentz earlier, I think he would have been available. But they were winning games, so there was no rush. Then you tie the Giants, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, should have won that game. Maybe we need you now. And Wentz is like, well, I'm ready. Y'all let me know. Y'all say word, and I'm ready. All right, just want to keep you warm in the bullpen. Well, they made the call to the bullpen. They call an old number 11. See what he's got. If Ron is right, he looks like a genius. If Ron is wrong, and we miss the playoffs, there's going to be a lot of angry fans, and there's going to be some angry players in that locker room. They're not benching, Carson. They're not benching Taylor Heinicke to insert a Hall of Fame player. And they're not inserting Carson Wentz into the lineup in relief of a Hall of Fame player. So it goes both ways. For most people, you're not moving the damn needle. It's not that much difference. Which is why a lot of people said you should never got Wentz in the first place, because there's not a great difference between the 2 quarterbacks. Touche. Up until right now, there hasn't been that much of a difference. The only thing we're holding on to as hope, if you're out there still hopeful, is the upside. But upside doesn't mean a damn thing if you're not turning that into some kind of tangible results. Look, who gives a shit about upside? One guy, a wise man once said, son, your talent is going to get me fired. Your potential is going to get me fired. That's all upside is potential. Wentz has more of it than Heinicke. Duh. One was the number 2 overall pick. One was undrafted. Duh. One 6'5", 240 pounds. The other guy's 5'11", 6 foot, nothing, barely 200 pounds, 205, 212 maybe. Duh. One's got a cannon for an arm. The other, it's not terrible. I think we underrated how far he can throw a football, but still, the two are polar opposites. Let's just hope for Ron Rivera's sake, for all of our sakes. Really, I want bonus football. This isn't a 2020 type of scenario where if you win and you get into playoffs, you're foregoing an early draft pick in order to make the playoffs. Either we're making the playoffs and playing bonus football, or we're right outside of it and we still have a shit pick. Either way, you're caught. You might as well go play some bonus football and give yourself a chance. Why the hell not? In a wide-ass open NFC, mind you. There used to be this Space Jam toy from McDonald's, right? With Michael Jordan. I used to love playing with this toy because it was so dumb, but it was easy to just press the button and he say, let's play some basketball. And you press it again and he says, I really enjoy playing with you guys. And you press it again and he says, let's play some basketball. And you press it again and it says, I really enjoy playing with you guys. I'm pressing the Carson Wentz button right now. He said, let's play some football. And I hope when I press it again, he's saying, I really want to play some postseason football with you guys. We'll see what it says when we press it again. Ron's pressing the button. Let's go play some football. I hope when we press it again, he's talking about playing some postseason football. I hope for Ron's sake, he just made the right decision. Because if he didn't, then all hell could break loose. And oh, by the way, we're back to square one at the quarterback position. And I'm just thinking to myself, damn it, man. If this Wentz shit doesn't pan out, Derek Carr is getting released in the offseason. Okay? I don't want anything to do with his ass. We're going to be pretty high on the damn list because I don't see us going out and getting a young quarterback. All right? I don't know if they trust Sam Howell or not. I don't know where he is in their thought process, how they view him. Is he a potential starter? Is that a guy that they want to give a look to next season? Or if he's just a developmental guy that they want to keep around and eventually he'll be the new Taylor Heinicke. And Heinicke could be allowed to walk this offseason, for instance. And they feel comfortable that Sam Howell could be a competent backup for them. We don't know what their thought process is. They could be thinking, oh, Sam Howell's the guy next year. We'll just bring back Taylor Heinicke on a 3-year deal. Give Sam the keys, or have a quarterback competition this offseason between Heinicke and Howell. Could you imagine that? What if Sam Howell sucks ass next year in preseason and it's back to Heinicke again? Could you really stomach that? That's a realistic possibility. Or they could go out and get a young guy, right? Bring back Heinicke. You still got Sam Howell. Those are your 3 quarterbacks. The young guy's not quite ready yet. Who do you think is going to start then? Taylor Heinicke. I honestly believe this team is going to do it again. I know you don't want to hear this, but if Wentz doesn't work, if we aren't playing on January 7th or 8th, okay? Or excuse me, We are playing on the 8th of January. Everybody's playing on the 8th of January. If we're not playing on the 14th or 15th of January, let me fix that. Let me correct that. If we're not playing on the 14th or 15th of January, I firmly believe we will be in the market for a veteran quarterback for the 3rd consecutive offseason. You don't want to hear that. Neither do I. But that is the truth of the matter, as a guy likes to say around here. That is the truth of the matter. The likelihood that Washington is in a position to draft a quarterback, and again, I don't know what the quarterback draft pool is going to look like because there's still guys that haven't declared one way or the other, whether they're going back to school. I know of one guy in particular that had my eye on and said, hey, he'll be interesting. Michael Penix Jr. from Washington. He's already decided he's going back to school. I don't think he's alone. There are going to be other guys that say, yeah, you know what? I'll go back to school. We're going to see what it shapes up into. But all I'm telling you is, I don't know if Washington's in a great spot to draft a quarterback or not. And thus, I think they're going to go the route of the veteran yet again. And also, you have to look at where your team is. While you would love to have a young guy come in and absolutely kill it, hit the ground running, and never look back, the likelihood is you draft a young guy, he's going to take his lumps. And with taking lumps means you're not going to be as good as you think you can be for a year, maybe two. That's not where this team is anymore. That was acceptable in 2020 when Ron first got here. I was fine with that in 2021 when Ron decided, hey, we won the division. Let's expedite the process. And I'm like, Ron, that's not what you told us. You don't need to do this. You don't have to go get Ryan Fitzpatrick. All you're doing is heightening expectations for no reason with a guy that's not going to win you a damn thing. That was the year to get the young quarterback, 2021. If you were going to do it, that was the year to do it. Take your lumps that year and be ready to fight. I told you when Ron first got here, 2022 was the year I was expecting to compete for something meaningful. Here we are. Not the manner in which I thought we would be doing it, but here we are. Final 2 games of the season, we got a chance to make the playoffs. But we're still in the same damn spot we were in when Ron got here at the quarterback position. We still don't have one. That wasn't the plan. And after this season, if we're not playing on the 14th or 15th of January, the likelihood is we're in the same exact spot we were in when Ron got here. That's a problem. Because at some point, you got to move. You got to do something. And it's not like they've been sitting on their hands, but what you've been doing hasn't been working. Similar to the Indianapolis Colts, continuing to get veteran after veteran after veteran and reshuffling the deck every offseason. It gets old after a while. And eventually, you run out of bullets. You run out of ammo. This is a big decision for Ron, man. Because it would have been easy for him to say, just going to ride it out with Heinicke. We're done with Wentz. And we'll reshuffle the deck in the offseason. But no, he's reassessing the move. And he's giving it one last opportunity to be resuscitated. If it works, you've got a dilemma on your hands. Because then you got to entertain the thought of bringing Wentz back. We'll see what happens. I'm just telling you guys. This is a pretty big decision. It was an easy one to make, in my eyes. But it's a big decision, nonetheless. For Ron's sake, I hope he's right. Because we could be staring at Derek Carr. We could be staring at Baker Mayfield. We could be staring at Jimmy. Remember, they liked Jimmy Garoppolo last offseason. We could be staring at Jimmy Garoppolo next offseason. Understand that this is where we are. Our team isn't young anymore from a standpoint of, oh, there's no expectation. This team is ready to win. This team is ready to win. This is no longer okay, You've still got, you're in the infant stages of trying to turn. No. We've passed that. This is year 3 of Ron Rivera. Next year will be year 4 of Ron Rivera. There's a sense of urgency now. One that does not come equipped with a young rookie quarterback. So just understand where we are. I know you don't want to hear that Jimmy G may be the next quarterback here, or Derek Carr may be the next quarterback here, or Baker Mayfield may be the next quarterback here. But understand that is a reality. That is a possibility. Okay? It could definitely turn into a reality quickly if this Wentz thing does not work out here in the final 2 games plus potentially of this season. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Let's get to another news. Actually, it's a lot of news to talk about with this team. I mean, we get to a lot of it tonight. We're going to talk about it. I want to see if you're going to bring up some of it. I won't mention all of it. I'll mention some of it. I'll mention the things I don't think you're going to bring up. Somebody's going to bring up 2 of the topics I have in my head. So I'll just let you guys bring it up. And if you don't, then I'll bring it up. But what we always do here in, this segment is we talk about the injury report for the upcoming week. We're going to do that here in a second. I want to go ahead and get the ball rolling for these tickets because I don't want to forget. So I'm sending 2 people to the game, as I always do. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all of that good jazz. As a matter of fact, it'll be New Year's Day. So Happy New Year's to 2 lucky Washington Commanders fans, or at least one, and you may drag somebody along with you who's not a fan of the team, whatever. Bottom line is, if you're interested in the tickets, first and foremost, you have to be a member of either Patreon or the Mob. A lot of you are like, no amount of begging is going to get you these tickets. This is my way of repaying those who support the channel financially, okay? That support the channel by continuing to bless the LouieTeeNetwork with all of their resources. So you can't just, use the hashtag and think you're going to get tickets. But that said, be a member of the Mob or Patreon. That's the first prerequisite. The next is you have to use the hashtag. What's the hashtag? Doo-doo Brown. That's right, Doo-doo Brown. Don't stop. Pop that. Let me see you, Doo-doo Brown. I want to rock. I want to rock. I want to rock. I want to rock. I want to rock right now. Oh, Doo-doo Brown. Hashtag Doo-doo Brown. DOODOO Brown. I will leave that hashtag down in the comment section, and I will pin it so you know what it is. All right. Let's get to the injury report for this week. Browns are coming to town. They're 6-9 and highly dangerous. These are the kinds of spots that I loathe because you're in a no-win situation. I would much rather be playing the Browns this week than the 49ers again, right? Or some other team that probably should beat us and put us in a position to not make the playoffs. However, you're supposed to beat the Browns. They're not a good team. And yet, I am fearful, as you probably are. A lot of you said before we even played San Francisco, season's done. We're not winning any more games. And that was just you being negative because you're expecting the worst. You're hoping for the best, but this team is we've had these conversations in the offseason. This team they precondition you to hope for the best, but expect the worst. And when you get your hopes up and you actually hope for the best and expect good things, you get let down like the second Giants game. So I get it, but I fully expect to win this game, but I'm nervous. The Browns are not going to come in here and lie down. They want to wreck our season. Theirs is over. Let me end yours as well. Dangerous place to be, but we got to find a way. If we want in, take care of business. Let's see who's going to be. Ron talked about all hands on deck last week. Let's see what hands we'll have on deck this week. Let's take a look at the injury report for week 17. So, John Bostic, pec injury, did not practice. I'm not going to lie to you. Don't miss him. I much prefer, and I actually thought that David Mayo, played well against the run last week, which he always does. Obviously, he's a liability. If you go watch the first George Kittle touchdown, I believe the first one was just the simple boot where he catches it and then veers across the field. Boy, David Mayo, either he was tired or he's just slow. It was probably a combination of the two. But boy, it was bad. But we know that's his limitation. He's not a coverage guy. But down around the line of scrimmage, he's a menace. I'd much rather take him than John Bostic. At least he does something. Bostic does nothing. Sadiq Charles' concussion, still not practicing. Again, I don't know the severity of it, but this would be the third straight game that he would miss. So we'll see what happens with him the rest of the week. Doesn't look good for him. Antonio Gibson, foot, knee. Ron talked about a sprain. He wouldn't give specifics yesterday. Finally, it's on the injury report. Ron said he sprained both. That's why Dax Milne was returning kickoffs, and we saw a lot more of Jonathan Williams in that 49ers game than we usually are accustomed to seeing. So something to keep an eye on. Ron tried to downplay it today, like Gibson would be fine. We'll see about that. He did not practice. I told you, we've had this discussion all year long. If you're not going to practice one day during the week, Wednesday is that day. It's install day. You can just be mentally engaged. It's an extra day of work and ability for you to get treatment. And so you usually take that opportunity on Wednesday. Thursday is the magical day. That's the day that's going to tell us, is this guy any closer to playing, or is he probably going to miss the game? You DNP Thursday, the likelihood is you're not playing on Sunday. We'll see about those guys. James Smith-Williams, concussion, he's not going to play. He sustained that concussion. We watched him walk off the field without his helmet against the 49ers. He's going to probably sit this one out. So Chase Young, illness, did not practice. We'll see where he stands. Hopefully he's able to at least go on a limited basis tomorrow. But you know how they do. You got an illness, don't bring your ass around the team. He could easily be out tomorrow and Friday and still play Sunday. But let's hope it's not anything serious with him, because he's missed the game due to illness before. I mean, he still wasn't technically back from his injury against Atlanta, but they were planning on playing him in that game, and then he got an illness, wasn't able to work out pregame, and so he didn't play. So let's hope it's not something like that. Cam Curl, ankle limited. We missed him. You know, 3 of our worst performances this season were all without Cam Curl in the lineup. It's not a coincidence. Talked about it last week going into the game. Cam Curl not playing, if he doesn't play, is a big effing deal. Okay. Didn't play in week 1. We gave up 22 points to Jacksonville. Easily could have given up 30 or 40 in that game, right? The following week, he didn't play against Detroit. We had all kinds of bust in coverage, and the Lions rolled up 36 points on us and a bunch of offense. What happens in this game? Coverage bust. 2 guys running wide open. If one didn't catch it, the other one would have caught it for a touchdown. Kittle running wide open on a deep over route. Catches it, runs. No one's even within striking distance of this man. He walks into the end zone for a second touchdown. We give him 37 points. Now, granted, the offense or defense rather, was put in some tough spots too, but it could have been worse. We need him back. It's essentially what I'm telling you. Ankle limited. We'll check his status as the week progresses. Andrew Norwell, he's been on the injury report with the shoulder for at least the last month. He's going to play. Juice's ankle, he's not right, man. God, he looked bad against the 49ers last week. There was I want to say it was the George Kittle play where he just looked slow. It might have been a different catch and run, but man, he looked so slow, and he re-aggravated the ankle. This is not the week for him to miss with Amari Cooper coming to town. I'll just tell you that right now. Shaka Toney, ankle limited. Brian Robinson, quad full. The hope is Gibson, Young, and every limited to full person on this list plays. That's the hope. If Bostic, Charles, and James Smith-Williams can't go, we'll be fine. But we need Gibson, Young, and then all of the rest of the guys that are limited or full. We need them all. So we'll see what happens there. Let's take a look at what the Browns have going on. So don't mind anybody with NIR, which is not injury related. So the first three guys are absolutely fine and are going to play on Sunday. That includes Myles Garrett. Jedrick Wills, a big-time offensive lineman for them with a back, didn't practice. Keep an eye on that. Jadeveon Clowney, concussion limited. It'd be great if he didn't play. You know, and Jadeveon Clowney is good for missing. It'd be nice if they could spell his name right as well, but it'd be nice if he could miss this game. I'd really prefer him to not play. It's bad enough we have to deal with Myles Garrett. I just prefer not to have to deal with Jadeveon Clowney. John Johnson, thigh, limited. That he's a really good safety for them. Jordan Elliott, elbow full. Kareem Hunt, shoulder full. Wyatt Teller, arguably their best offensive lineman, ankle full. And Denzel Ward, they're arguably their second best defender after Myles Garrett, shoulder full. All of those guys are going to play. All the full guys are going to play unless they have some sort of setback. So the Browns are relatively healthy is what I'm trying to tell you. Clowney is the one guy. Him and Jedrick Wills are the two that I'm eyeballing to see if we can catch a break. And at this point of the season, with what's on the line, I'm taking all breaks. No, you're not getting the modest Louie T. Oh, I want that team's best players on the field. Nah, F that. Any corner I can cut at this point, I'm looking to do it. Anything that gets me one step closer to postseason ball, sign me up. So, we heard from Carson Wentz today. We heard from Ron Rivera today. We'll talk about that in a second. I want to bring up something that caught my interest. Two guys were activated from injury reserve today. One was the cornerback that we got earlier this season, Castro Fields, who we took off the San Francisco 49ers practice squad as a 6th-round pick. We may have to check out the young man, especially if Juice can't go. It's not the greatest position to be in, but this is what they knew what they were getting themselves into when they decided that they were going to go get two young guys in Rashad Wildgoose and Castro Fields to fill the void at corner that we had instead of going out and getting a veteran, a proven veteran. So it may come down to that. Also, this is more notable than Castro Fields. We're getting Amani Rodgers back. And never did I think. I remember back in training camp, we were doing a video. It was Ed Oliver. It was Rio. It was Rico and myself. And Rico brought up Amani Rodgers. He was excited about Amani Rodgers. And I'm like, bro, he's not making a team. And we all kind of dismissed him, but I was extra dismissive. Get out of here with that. Amani Rodgers, that's cool, man. That's cute. I can't wait for him to get back on the field. Like, we got nothing in terms of athleticism at tight end without him. And we've been waiting on Cole Turner all year. We'll have to wait until next year. It's just what it is. And I haven't given up on him. We're just going to have to wait till next year on him. Amani Rodgers, if he's healthy, he comes back and immediately gives us something that no other tight end on this roster gives us, and that's athleticism. The ability to make a big play out of a short pass. You throw Logan Thomas a tight end screen, where is he really going with that thing, right? Where's he going? Nowhere, right? What's the point of it? You throw John Bates. We've thrown John Bates a tight end screen. Why? Why? Where is he going? Nowhere. You throw Amani Rodgers a tight end screen. We've seen what he can do with that. Hell, we've even given it to him on a jet sweep before, and that worked out well for us. It'll be good to have him back in the lineup. if he's healthy and they're confident in him, it'd be good to have him back this week. So he was also activated off of IR, or his window was opened up, along with Castro Fields at the cornerback position. So hearing from Ron was pretty much it sounded like he was trying to convince himself that he was making the right decision, with Carson. Now, I don't think he's making the wrong decision, but I don't think he necessarily feels like there's a huge difference necessarily. He understands the same thing that we all do, that there's a greater upside with Carson, but is there that big of a difference? We're going to find out, because if Carson's going to turn it over, if he's going to miss underneath throws to open receivers like we saw him do earlier in the season, it's not that big of a difference. You're still going to be – we were terrible with Carson on third downs before Heinicke got in and was stinking it up on third downs. We were terrible. We were one of 10 again, or 2 of 10, or 2 of 12 against the Titans. We were 1 of 11 against the Bears. Like, Carson wasn't any better on third downs. So we'll see. Ron talked about all the guys that they hope to have back. He talked about Chase Young's snap count and how the plan was 12 to 15, but Chase felt good. And we talked about this, the conditioning aspect Chase kept referring to. And I think Chase really just wanted to get to a place where once he got in there were no restrictions. Because Ron all along kept talking about 12 to 15 snaps. The man played 30. He doubled that. He doubled that snap total. And really came out no worse for the wear. So he talked about the impact that, Chase could have, taking some of the pressure off of Montez. It'd be nice to see. This illness doesn't help matters. Hopefully it's nothing serious. I love that the fellas had the additional day off. We were crying about it on the front end because it was a short week, quick turnaround after playing on a Sunday night. Not just any old Sunday, but a Sunday night, and then having to get home late, early the next morning. Short, condensed week, and then fly all the way across the country. Not ideal. But you get an extra day on the back end of that. So let's see how they handle that. Obviously, a lot of Ron's presser dealt with the decision to go to Carson and what he saw from Carson that prompted the change. And one of the things Ron emphasized was that Carson showed a better command of the offense, that there were some looks that he got. And I told you, the 49ers blitzed the brakes off of him. I was shocked. They even asked Carson at the podium today, was he expecting the amount of heat he got? And he's like, that's not what they showed on film. He said, I was actually shocked how often they blitzed us. Me in particular, not us, me. Like they saw red, like he was a bull. They saw red and they just started charging him. But Ron said he handled it well, which he did. We watched it with our own eyes. He handled the pressure well. So, he said he saw a more decisive Wentz. He saw a much more spry. I tend to agree with that. I thought he moved a lot better in the game. And he said he saw a guy that just had a better handle of what they were looking for offensively, getting the ball out of his hands, things of that nature. So, and that throw to Curtis was a dime. You can't deny it. It's a great throw. Layered right over a defender, led him up the field so that he could score. It was a beautiful throw. They were impressed. They should have been. I was impressed. So Ron said they're looking for a spark. That's why they made the move. I don't disagree with that assessment. We need a spark. We need something else. We're banging our head up against a brick wall, a 17 to 20 point brick wall. That's getting old. You're not going to win a lot of games in this league scoring 17 to 20 points. Going to need to score more than that. So Carson gives you that opportunity. We're going to see what he can do. We're going to see what he does. Speaking of Wentz, he spoke today. He said, look, I hate it for Taylor Heinicke, but I'm a competitor. I want to play, and I'm happy for the opportunity. Of course, they brought up, last year and having 2 opportunities to win 1 game to go to the postseason. And they even asked that to Ron. They said, hey, do you think that this is a chance for Carson to change the narrative? He had 2 opportunities to win 1 game last year for the Colts to make it to the playoffs. He failed to do so. He's got 2 games this year. Need to win both to get into the playoffs. Is this something that you're looking forward to? And I thought this was they couldn't have thrown the alley. They couldn't have served up a softball to Ron any better for him to use the old interesting versus important. I was waiting for it. I said, I'm sitting dead red fastball, Ron. They gave it to you right down the plate. He didn't take it. He didn't take the opportunity to knock it out of the park. He said no, that he kind of said it without saying it. I just wanted the direct quote. I just wanted, well, you know what, guys, that's interesting. Interesting that it happened last year. What's important is that we beat Cleveland. We win this first game to give us a chance next week. Something to that effect. Ron got into, 2 different circumstances, 2 different teams, 2 different scenarios, yada, yada, yada. This is different. This is this year. He said, but I'll be happy for the young man if he can do it this year. It's a big deal, man. Part of bringing Carson here was changing the narrative. It's all we talked about in the offseason. We're going to give him a better situation than he had in Philadelphia, than he had in Indianapolis. We're going to provide him an opportunity to show that he can play in this league and that he was a top 5 pick for a reason. And we're going to get him back to where he was in Philadelphia when he was looked at as one of the better young quarterbacks in the league. We're going to provide him that platform here in Washington. We failed him. I said this when we benched him. When he got injured and Heinicke took over and I wasn't really looking to go back to Wentz, I said, we failed. Like, Wentz failed us, but we failed him first. And in turn, he failed us. We did not provide him with an adequate offensive line. We did not provide him with an adequate run game. We did not provide him with adequate game planning and calling. And thus, he was set up to fail. And he did. The situation is a little bit different this time around. We know who we are. We had no idea who we were at the beginning of the season. We had no identity. We were kind of going through the motions. Offensive line was a mess. There was no run game really which to speak of. All of that's changed. The offensive line still isn't the greatest, but it's not what it was when he was in the lineup the first time around. So he's going to have a chance. What he does with it is up to him. He talked about the belief of the guys in the locker room. He talked about, this opportunity that's being presented to him. Look, Wentz is no dummy. He understands what this is. This might be his last opportunity to start. This might be it for him as an unquestioned starter in this league. We'll see what he does. I'm rooting for him like hell. Not just because he plays for the Commanders and I want to make the playoffs. I wanted this to work. When we went out and traded for him, I was not a huge fan of the deal. You guys know that. I wasn't against it, but I wasn't for it. I was kind of somewhere in the middle. And then I started analyzing and overanalyzing, and I convinced myself that, hey, this can work. We've got talent. We've got more talent here than he's ever had in his career. That's not an exaggeration, and that's not a lie. He's never played with this much talent before. That hasn't changed. What has changed is the offensive line isn't inferior anymore. It's not great. Far from it. But it wasn't even capable of giving him a chance his first time around. He was at a stark disadvantage every time he took a snap the first time around with this offensive line. That is no longer the case, okay? What is still the case is he's got a center that struggles to snap him the ball. How many times, and I get it, Heinicke's a much shorter target. You go from snapping to him for 3.5 quarters to then snapping to Wentz, and it's a tough ask to get it up a little bit. But I'm going to need Wes Schweitzer to actually snap the ball where Carson Wentz doesn't have to bend down to catch it. I'm going to cut him a break last week and just say, hey, tough adjustment to make in game after doing it, and you've got the muscle memory for 3.5 quarters. You've got a full week of practice. I need that ball up to Carson's belly, okay? I need it up to his waist. I don't need that extra second, half a second he takes to bend down is the difference between him getting to the top of his drop and getting rid of it or having someone turn the corner and hit his arm as he's trying to throw the football. Fix it. Defense is better than what it was when he played the first time around. Defense actually wasn't terrible, but it wasn't this good. It's a much better defensive unit. They didn't necessarily show it against San Francisco. Boy, we need Cam Curl back. Man, it'd be nice if Benjamin St. Juste was healthy. He's not healthy. I think we all got to see that firsthand. But we'll see. Wentz is excited for the opportunity. I hope he takes advantage of it. That's all I'm going to say about that. Let's take our first look at these Cleveland Browns. 6-9, as I mentioned. They're coming in here. They don't have a care in the world. Not a good football team. Still adjusting to Deshaun Watson getting the nod. He's still knocking the rust off. They're not a good offense right now. They're just not. Watson's turning it over. Here's the key. There's not a lot for me to really discuss with you from a defensive standpoint against this Browns offense. You got 3 jobs that you have to do if you want to win. 1, this could easily be 1, 2, and 3. But I'm just going to make it 1. Stop the run game of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Okay? Every team that has done that down the stretch of this season has beaten the Cleveland Browns. If you do not stop Nick Chubb, you will lose. It's pretty simple. Okay? They run the football. That is their specialty. We had the same opportunity against Tennessee. We failed in that one. You do it again here, you're going to have the same result you had against the Titans. It's really simple. Load up, stop the run, make Deshaun Watson beat you as a passer. They've got more weapons than the Titans did, but it's a similar approach. That's number 1. Number 2, don't let their receivers, and they've got some guys that can run. Amari Cooper can run. Donovan Peoples-Jones can run. All right. Anthony Schwartz can run. They've got some guys that can move and motor. All right. Don't let those guys hurt you. And oh, by the way, they actually have an athletically gifted tight end. That seems to be our kryptonite. David Njoku is a problem. And if we're not careful, we'll get got again. That seems, if you've got a tight end, you got a chance to kick our ass. Especially if Cam Curl doesn't play. Here's to hoping that he does play. That's number 2. You have to minimize the impact of those. And Ron talks about explosives. They've got some guys that can get explosives against us. Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Njoku in particular. Keep those guys in front of you. Make them earn it, because what I've seen from Deshaun Watson since he's returned is they're incapable of consistently putting together drives without mistakes. They're inconsistent in putting together drives without mistakes. They consistently make mistakes on drives that derail their opportunities to score. Does that sound familiar to you? So if you don't give up the 34-yard catch and run or 37-yard pass over the top that puts them in field goal range, but rather make them get 3 separate first downs, and then all of a sudden there's a holding, then a batted ball, and now all of a sudden it's 2nd and 20 or 3rd and 14. You won't end up in those situations, but if you allow those big chunk plays, they'll be able to score points. Three, don't turn it over, because this is how bad teams beat you. You turn it over, give up great field position, or you take scoring opportunities off the board, right? Now they're playing with confidence. Now they're scoring some points. Now they feel like, why not today? Why can't we win? Jump their ass early like we did Houston. That's what the goal should be. Jump on these boys early. Jump on them often. Don't take your foot off of their neck. Just Deshaun Watson is struggling right now. He's still trying to find his way. He won't figure that shit out until next year. Don't let our game be his coming out party. He's struggling. Still trying to figure some shit out. Let him figure it out next year. For all we care. Take advantage of this opportunity. Defensively, the Browns come in here with Myles Garrett. That's enough to wreck shop for us. It doesn't take much to turn our offense upside down. All it takes is one dominant player. You saw what Bosa did last week. We've seen what other dominant players have done against our defense. Aiden Hutchinson had 3 sacks in the first half against us. Okay. I don't know if he had 3 sacks in his next 6 games combined. Okay. He had 3 in the first half against us. And if he didn't get hurt, who knows? He might have had a 6-piece against us. How about we don't, okay? How about we don't allow a guy to come in here and eat? Joey Bosa, how many sacks? I stopped counting how many times he hit the quarterback or did some crazy shit or, sacked our guy or drew a holding penalty. I stopped counting. Aaron Donald came in here one year and had 4 sacks, okay? Can we not let a guy that we know is capable of wrecking a game not wreck the game? Can we not have that happen? Can we actually block a guy that we know is capable of destroying a game plan? You know what 95 is capable of. Why do we have to have these discussions every time someone dominant is coming in here and then watch them come in here and do the thing that we said we couldn't allow them to do? It'd be nice if for once we took a guy that's capable of destroying a game plan and we neutralized him. We didn't hear that guy's name very often. It'd be nice. Zadarius Smith came in here leading the lead in sacks. They put him inside and we act like we never saw an edge rusher reduce inside and rush. And he was all over the quarterback. I don't think he had a sack, but he hit Taylor Heinicke at least 4 or 5 times and batted another ball on the 3rd down. That would have been a completion for a first down. We never saw them reduce. They reduce Myles Garrett all the time inside against guards and centers. Please be wary, okay? Please make a mental note. Just because he's moved inside doesn't mean you don't still double team him. If he's outside, tight end, tackle. If he's inside, guard, center. Please be advised. 95 is dangerous and he's on the loose. Okay? APB out for this man on every single snap. We're going to get our opportunities to move the football, have some explosives against this Browns defense. We're going to have an opportunity to move the football and score some points. We're even going to get an opportunity or two to turn them over. What are we going to do with those opportunities? That's the question. If we're serious about winning this game and making everything that we want be on the line in week 18, we'll take advantage of those opportunities. If we're not serious about that, then we'll turn 95 loose. We'll put a tight end on him. It's just Myles Garrett. Put John Bates on him. We'll be fine. Okay. And we will give up some big plays. We'll turn it over once or twice. They'll score off those turnovers. And before you blink, we're down 10-0 or we're down 14-3. And here we go again. Just like the Giants game, fighting an uphill battle. At least it's different this time that you've got Wentz and you're fully capable of deleting a large deficit. But why? Why? Why would you want to do that? Please don't. Please do not. They can't cover all three of our receivers. They can't. There aren't many teams in this league that can. We want to run the football. We need to run the football. But we also need to be able to take advantage of the advantage, which is our receivers. You can't have it both ways unless you're having tons of success running the football, which we did not against San Francisco, which was very frustrating because the 49ers made it a point of emphasis to stop the run. And we kept running it anyway. And we ended up in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, and 3rd and 11. And you're asking Heinicke and his offense, which they actually did a good job of. Something like that on third downs. Like, we actually did a quality job of overcoming long down and distances. But that is not, I repeat, not who we are. If the run game isn't working, I'm not telling you to abandon it, but I'm telling you, and this is the thing they got to guard against, and this is the problem we had earlier with Wentz. This is what Derek B likes to bring up. My guy Derek B likes to bring up all the time. With Wentz in the lineup, we were throwing it 40 times a game. It's a different outlook. It's a different, feel for this team, but they can't get away from the run. But at the same time, you can't be afraid with Carson Wentz to stretch it vertically. There needs to be a balance. It's up to you, Scott Turner, to find that balance. So, anyway, I digress. Let's get to our final segment and social media maneuvers. I'm a midnight marauder. So, let's get to the comment section. See what you guys have to say. Y'all know what it is. Actually, the wrong thing. Let's just get to the comment section. Once again, I'll remind you, I've already done this, but I'll say it again. If you are a member of the mob or you are on Patreon and you would love to have your comment or love to be entered into the drawing for the tickets, 2 tickets to the Browns game where they'll be unveiling a new mascot. Spoiler alert. We already know what the mascot will be and what his name is. Use the hashtag Doodoo Brown. That's right. Doodoo Brown. All right. Let's get to the comment section and see what we have. JB Johnson. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. JB Johnson writes, we need the points. We need more than 17 points. With the defense playing better, we have a chance with Wentz. Run game and O-line giving it their all. You're not wrong. This is why I said I don't have a problem with Ron pulling the plug on the Taylor Heinicke experiment. It was okay when you were still winning games, but you knew, and I told you guys after we beat Indianapolis, I said, guys, this shit isn't sustainable. You can't score 17 points and think you're going to beat teams in this league consistently. I was very adamant about this. I made jokes about it in the offseason when Ron kept referring to last year's 4-game win streak. two of which were 17-15 victories over the Raiders and Seahawks. And I'm like, Ron, that's not sustainable. Don't keep bringing those games up. You're not going to win a bunch of games like that. Yeah, we need more than 17 points. I couldn't agree with you more. Wentz gives us there's no guarantee. Wentz has scored less than 17 in more of his starts than in less of them, okay? So there's 8 against Philadelphia. Was it 15 against Dallas? Was it 15 against Dallas? Did we even make it to 15? I think the score was 15-10. I think we scored 10 against Dallas, right? I think it was 22-10 was the final score in that game or something to that effect. 25-10. So 8, 10, 17 against the Titans, and 12 against the Bears. So in 4 of his 6 starts, he was well below 17 points. Okay? So I'm not telling you that he's guaranteed to score 28 or 27 like he did in his first 2, but that exists. That opportunity to do that exists. And this is a different team, than when he was at the helm to begin the season. So I don't disagree with you. Your mom's favorite player. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, happy holidays, Lou. Happy holidays. If we don't need a quarterback, what position are you drafting in the first round? If we go corner, Gonzalez from Oregon should fall right in our range. Check him out. If we don't need quarterback, that means some good things have happened down the stretch of this season. But the first need is BPA at a position of need. Now, you don't want to go reaching, but corner is definitely a need on this team. Offensive line is a definite need on this team. Linebacker is a definite need on this team. I mean, there's a number of different routes you could take. If you don't plan on re-signing a guy like Montez Sweat, defensive end is a position you could take. Like, there's a number of different routes you could go with this offseason. You're going to need offensive line help, period. You're going to need cornerback help, whether it's a nickel or it's another boundary corner, really doesn't matter. You're going to need it. It just depends on who's available at the time of your selection. And we won't know where we're drafting until, the end of the season when things shake out for us. So it'll be interesting to see what they, decide to do. But we got plenty of time to discuss that because we're really going to have to identify what the biggest needs on this team are. I made a list last year. I'm going to make another list this year. Corner's going to be really high on the list. So it could very well be a corner that we take. Let's see. King of the North. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, King of the North, writes, the question is, will Turner go back to 7-step drops and trying to go down the field since he's got his big arm QB back? They better run the ball and throw quick passes or Wentz will get sacked 7+ times. Rattled Wentz is terrible. Yeah. And that's some of the questions, the line of questions that Ron received today was the media trying to hint at Ron, like, bro, don't get, and they really didn't need to address that with necessarily with Ron, more so with Scott tomorrow. Like, bro, just because Wentz is back in there doesn't mean you forget about the run game and turn this thing back into weeks 1 through 6. Don't forget about why we started winning games and how we started winning games. And that was off the strength of us running the football. Now you've got, this is all I've ever asked for, right? Was, hey, we're running the football and we're having some success. And even when we're not having success like we didn't against San Francisco, but the threat of us running it gave us opportunities. How many shots did we take down the field and have? Terry shot. Jahan had a shot that was negated. Jahan had another one that he dropped that should have been a touchdown. We took shots and had opportunities. Why? Because the 49ers were loading up to stop the run game. So even when it wasn't working, it still had an impact. You're going to have those same opportunities. Now you got a guy who's a little bit more accurate down the field with a bigger arm that can get it to these guys. I just want Scott Turner to remember how we got to this point. Don't forget what got us here. If he's able to do that, if he can steer clear of and resist the urge to go back to what he was before Wentz got injured, we're going to have a shot. But to your point, the 7-step drops and throwing on first down, throwing on second down, throwing on third down, and not even having a rushing attempt, or running it on first down, getting 5, and then throwing it on second and 5, and throwing it on third and 5, and having disaster strike is a surefire way to have this thing unravel. And again, Wentz getting hit, Wentz getting rattled isn't a good thing, because that's one thing we've already identified is he just doesn't handle that well. Being under duress, being panicked, he doesn't handle that very well. It's one thing to come in off the bench in relief, and there's no expectations when you come off the bench in a game that you're losing by 16 points. You're down 2 scores. There's no expectation there. You just come in and you just stroke it, right? You just throw the football, and what happens, happens. Nobody's expecting you to bring us back from a 16-point deficit. It's different when you start a 0-0 game against an inferior opponent, or at least I shouldn't say inferior, because they're not that far away from us. We're 7-7-1. They're 6-9. Okay. A team that you theoretically should beat at home. It's a little bit different. So we're going to see how he handles it. I'm with you, King of the North. Red Wing 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, little early to talk about drafting, but a position we need to be wary of is DN. I just mentioned DN, right? Obata is an impending free agent. Next season is contract year for Sweat, JSW, and Tuhill. Shagatoni and Bradley King year after. That's why I said don't rule out defensive end, because not only that, but to your point, Obata signed a 1-year deal, so he's a free agent this upcoming year. You got to make a decision on Montez Sweat, right? And at some point, you got to come to the realization you're not going to be able to re-sign all of these guys. Like, we definitely got to have Payne back. I think we've all come to that realization. You've already re-signed Jonathan Allen. You're going to try to find a way to get it done with Payne this offseason. Chase Young is a guy that is the face of this franchise right now. I think Sweat is playing his ass off and they want him back, but can you afford all 4 of those guys? This is something we've been talking about for 3 years now. That conversation has died down a bit with Chase Young getting injured and, other things coming to the forefront. But that was a real conversation in 2020 when the defense was playing really well and all those guys were playing well up front, is can you keep all of those guys? We're going to revisit that here in a bit. So defensive end shouldn't be something that you just, shoo away because Chase Young is back and you got all these guys. To your point, this is something that you need to consider, which is why I said, hey, defensive end is something else to consider as well. So, yeah, I'd definitely be on the lookout for that. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, forgot to mention Chase in 2 years. We might be stocked there now and aren't talking about it, but we can't neglect less obvious positions. It'll bite. The draft is all about taking the best talent available. You don't want to go reaching for needs, which is why I said BPA of a need, but you also want to consider just the best player available in general, right? Look, you have to be smart. If you've already got 2 starting tackles and a swing tackle, and the best player available on the board at your selection is a tackle, you're not going to take that guy, right? So clearly, you're not going to just take the best player available because he's available. You have to look at your roster and assess what guy makes the most sense for your football team. But at the same time, a wise man once told me there's nothing wrong with taking a strength and making it stronger. So I watch teams, especially those Giants teams of the mid, 2000s to the early, 20 teens. I watch those Giants teams take strengths and make them stronger. They would take edge rushers almost every year in the draft. Guys on that defensive line, whether it was Justin Tuck or Matthias Kiwanuka, JPP, they just kept those guys coming in waves. They never stopped drafting defensive ends and defensive linemen, despite already having O.C. Umenyiora and Michael Strahan and guys like that. They just kept drafting defensive linemen. And you're like, dude, you don't need any linemen. You got a bunch of them. They're like, nothing wrong. No one says we can't draft another one. You can never have enough corners. You can never have enough linemen in this league, offensive or defensive. So those are, three positions in particular where you can never have enough. Never. Let's see. Mr. Ron B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Mr. Ron B, OG, triple OG writes, Lou, Happy New Year to you and the family and the LTN crew. Likewise, Mr. Ron B. I look forward to enjoying this upcoming weekend with the family and friends, and I hope that you were doing the same and counting our blessings that we were able to see yet another year and hoping to see many, many more. And I wish that for all of you out there as well. Let's see. Mr. Ron B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, a last few points about the 49ers game. The O-line gave Heinicke time to throw. Not being able to run the ball the first couple of possessions hurt. But we moved the ball on the first couple of possessions. That's the crazy part. If Jahan doesn't drop that touchdown, it's 7-0 on the first possession. The second possession, we moved it right down the field, and we ran it all the way down, and we still couldn't get it in. And what did I tell y'all? I said, guys, Scott Turner's inclination has been all season long to overreact to things that he has not done. He did not run it in the red zone, hadn't run it in the red zone. What did you think he was going to do? I said, guys, I'm telling you right now, I told you the same thing about last year when we didn't get it to JD in week 1 and we overreacted. And what did he do in the Giants game the following week? JD had like 8-9 touches. We talked about this earlier this season when, Terry didn't have any touches in the game prior to the Bears game. I think that was the game against Dallas. He didn't have enough touches, or the Titans game it was, rather. Terry didn't have enough touches. He did draw the pass interference late in the game and put the ball at the 2-yard line, but didn't have a ton of touches. And so there was this overreaction. And what did they do? He jet sweep Terry twice. Terry fumbled one, but he recovered it. He threw him about 5 slants in that game. We didn't have a lot of offense, remember. That was the worst offensive game of the season, but Terry still touched it like 7 or 8 times in that game. We talked about Jahan not getting it against the Texans, and we knew the overreaction, not getting it against the Falcons. And I said the overreaction is going to be that this Giants game, Jahan's going to touch it on the first possession, or if not the first, the second. And what happened? Jahan had like 4 touches in the first 2 possessions of the game. Fast forward to last week, I said there's a lot of reaction to the lack of Brian Robinson touches in the red zone. Rightfully so. It was ridiculous. And people started going back to past weeks where he didn't touch it. And so Scott was being made aware of Brian Robinson's inactivity in the red zone when it mattered most. So what was he going to do to overcompensate? I said, I guarantee you he's going to run the football a ton when we get down there. We ran it 4 straight times, and for some inexplicable reason, Brian Robinson was not on the field for the last of those 4 runs, and we didn't get in. I would appreciate some creativity, something different, but at the end of the day, we got to be able to get the football in the end zone, and we didn't. Got to be able to run the football, man. Short yardage, Brian Robinson that's the reason we got the guy, and we give it to Antonio Gibson, and you saw the end result. So anyway, I digress. Derek B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, TH 1-5-1 in December. We were not making the playoffs with him. That number is startling, but it's not the end all be all. But that is an indictment on him, but it's not something he can't overcome. but that number doesn't necessarily do him any favors. So I personally, I still thought that we could have made the playoffs with him, but it was becoming increasingly harder to ignore the things that he wasn't doing, because the things that we knew he was capable of doing, they weren't overshadowing them anymore. The athleticism wasn't overshadowing the, turnovers. The knowledge of the playbook in the offense wasn't overshadowing the fact that he still was holding on to the ball too long. He gets spooked by something, hold on to it, and next thing you know, ball's in the air. He explained the fumble in after the game in the post-game presser, and I'm thinking to myself, bro, that's a bullshit ass excuse. Oh, well, we had a concept for Jahan down the field. They were playing cover 2, so that kind of took that away. And I saw something else, but I didn't want to chance it. So how many opportunities do you think you're gonna have, bro? If you don't like that, get off of that, check it, get rid of it. This is the same reason you fumbled against the Giants. You're at your 1 yard line. You're holding on to number 1 forever. Then you look at Bates. Bates is coming over now to get rid of the damn ball. Anyway, you probably were right, but I can't say that with 100% certainty that we wouldn't have made, because I was adamant, and I still am, that we're going to make the playoffs despite the loss. I had already accounted for a loss in San Francisco, which is why beating the Giants the second time was imperative, because I was already applying a loss to the record going to San Francisco. It wasn't a kamikaze mission, but it was the closest you could get to one without actually, and we had our chances. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, can't say it enough. The key is getting the ball out fast. Effective run game and play action are critical too. If Wentz starts holding the ball and taking bad sacks, Ron should be willing to go to Taylor. Getting the ball out quick is mandatory on early downs. If you're going to throw the football in place of the run game on first down, it needs to be quick game. Unless you're having success already running the football and now you want to go heavy play action fake and take your little 7-step drop and push it down the field, then I'll excuse a deep drop or Wentz holding on to it a little bit longer on first down. But if we're subbing out a run on first down for a throw, it needs to be quick, a slant to Terry. All right. It needs to be a 5-yard out cut, a speed cut to Jahan, and you're getting 6 or 7 on first down and looking to stay ahead of the sticks, right? It needs to be a quick throw. But if Wentz is back there, building a house, that's to your point, that's problematic for us, and that's when problems usually ensue. So, yeah, and I don't think Ron is going to play yo-yo with the quarterbacks, like unless Carson gets injured or he's so ineffective, and even that I don't see him do. I don't think we're seeing Taylor Heinicke again as the starter this year, barring some kind of injury. So we'll see. Mr. Ron B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. OG Triple OG writes, second, I could see the sack fumble pre-snap with Bates lined up over Boza. I told my 49er friends what was about to happen. Again, I don't understand this obsession with blocking elite edge rushers. I made this point before the game. I said, under no circumstances is it okay for one of our tight ends to be lined up blocking Nick Bosa. At no point is that okay. Even if it's on a 2-point conversion, it's not okay. All right. Under no circumstances is that allowed. And I get some concepts just don't allow you to do, well, then don't run that concept this week. Like to me, and that's the problem I have with Scott Turner, is he just makes everything so much harder than it needs to be, because I'm not saying you should be able to take an elite pass rusher out of the game, but you should be able to neutralize him some way, somehow. And there should never be a time where he's singled up against a tight end. He might be singled up with the tackle. The tackle, that's what he gets paid for. Block him. We're not going to have you blocking him one-on-one all game long, but when we call your number to block him one-on-one, block him. But there should never be a time where he's being blocked one-on-one with the tight end. Never. Let's see. Rick, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Rick writes, Lou, do you think it is a smart idea? I think it is a stupid idea. That sounds like luck, but I'll just tell you this. I already gave you my opinion on the decision to go with Wentz. So, like I said, that sounds like a luck open-ended question. I'm supposed to go, what is a good idea? Just a random dude named Rick I've never seen before, right? Hell out of here, man. Anyway, Mr. Ron B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Mr. Ron B, writes, last point. Niners fans were really impressed with our defense. The game was there for the taking to start the fourth quarter, but we just couldn't capitalize. We move on. I was impressed with the red zone defense. I wasn't impressed with our defense from the I wasn't impressed with the defense because in typical fashion, we give up stuff that we shouldn't give up. We give up explosives. What I was most impressed with, okay, so the score is 7-7. We immediately, the first drive of the second half, we immediately give up the lead. It's 14-7, right? We don't score, right? I think we went for it on fourth down deep in our own territory. That led to another touchdown. It's 21-7. And just so you know, I wasn't against that. You know, you should be able to get that first down. And in that moment, I was like, Ron, you should go for this, bro. You know, I wasn't mad at him doing that. But it's 21-7, right? Terry catches a deep ball. It's a great catch by Terry, right? One of those YOLO, Heinicke, F it, Terry's down there somewhere balls. And Terry comes up with it because that's what Terry is. He's a G, right? And then he finds Terry in the end zone. He had Jahan wide open initially, but for whatever reason, he wasn't working that side of the field. Comes back to Terry, and he gives him a chance, and Terry makes him right. It's 21-14. That's late third quarter, right? By the time we got to the very first snap of the fourth quarter, they were in field goal range, kicking a Robbie Gould field goal to make it 24-14. Like, our defense wasn't terrible. That whole first half, we pretty much shut them down. It's 7-0. It's 0-0 for much of the first half because of our inability to score when we had opportunities to score. They take the lead 7-0 on a Kittle catch and run, and then we tie it up. It's tied at 7 apiece at half. And then I thought our defense, gave up some stuff. Yeah. But what was impressive about the defense is we imploded in the fourth quarter, right? Late stages of the third, they got a chance to get in the end zone. They don't. We force them to a field goal. It's 24-14. First possession of the fourth quarter, Heinicke gets hit, fumbles the ball. They're in prime real estate to score again. What do? We get a stop. As a matter of fact, the first touchdown, I think, was the run by Ray McLeod, which I'm like, what the F, bro? Like a simple jet sweep. We can't stop that. Like, what are we doing? And then the two George Kittle touchdowns. But the two stops after the turnovers to force field goals to keep it at a 2-score lead, that was as impressive defensive stands as we've had all season, man. I mean, that Colts stop inside, and that was all their fault. If Michael Pittman Jr. on on a jet sweep, just keeps running to the outside. He's going to score a touchdown easily, but he, some reason, cuts it up, and he gets stonewalled at the 1 by Cam Curl, and that gives us a chance to make the stop on 3rd down and force him to kick a field goal. But that was a huge stop. But those 2 stops to force the 49ers to kick field goals, huge, because the game's over well before, Wentz comes in if we don't get those stops. But because the defense got those stops and forced field, the 49ers are like 1 of 5 or something like that. I got my mobile device right here. They were either 1 of 4 or 1 of 5 in the red zone. It was pretty damn impressive by Washington's defense to stop the 49ers as many times as they did in the red zone. It was super impressive. And I think that's the part of the defense you had to be impressed with if you were the 49ers, was our ability to stop the 49ers from making this thing ugly a lot sooner. But I couldn't be impressed with the defense, because it's 7-7 and you give up a 34-yard touchdown pass to George Kittle to make it 14-7. That's the opening drive of the second half for the 49ers. Then you have a drive, but it doesn't amount to any points, and you give up the 33-yard pass to Kittle, and he's wide ass open, right? That's 21-7. Terry catches the bomb and then the touchdown with 2 minutes and 46 seconds left in the third quarter to make it 21-14. At that point, I need the defense to get the football back to the offense. They just had a drive. They've got some momentum. The defense for the 49ers, they're reeling right now. I need the ball back. And what does the defense do? In those 2 minutes and 46 seconds, the 49ers are immediately back in Washington territory, and they score a field goal on the first play of the fourth quarter to extend the lead out to 2 scores at 24-14. That's a problem for me, okay? 3 minutes later, Heinicke fumbles. Defense gets the stop. This is when they were impressive. Get the stop, force a field goal. 3 minutes later after that, Heinicke throws a pick. They get another stop. It's 30-14. So literally, like the first play after the touchdown, Heinicke throws fumbles. Defense comes on the field and gets a stop. The first play on the next possession, or second, Heinicke throws a pick, and the defense comes on the field and gets another stop. And it's 30-14. And then Wentz comes in and gives us a spark. But I was impressed with the red zone defense, not the defense overall. We gave up too many big plays. But the 49ers were 1 of 5 in the red zone. That was the impressive stat for me in the game. 1 of 5 in the red zone. That's why if you're a 49ers fan, you said, hey, that Washington defense isn't too bad. But we have 37 points, dude. Like, it's hard for me to say that the defense had a great game. But Rick, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. AKA Luck. Right. So when is Sean Taylor's brother in the draft? I have no idea. There's this obsession with Washington fans about Sean Taylor's brother. I don't know why. Because it's not like his brother is nice, right? Like he's a first-round pick and you want to bring him home. And I'm not even with the nostalgia of, oh, man, that's Sean's brother. He needs to play here. F that. Trying to get good ball players, not a guy that is, trying to follow in his brother's footsteps, but we don't even, like, I don't know. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm just going to leave it at that. Quentin Ruiz, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Quentin Ruiz, writes, do you see a situation where we can get Lamar Jackson? No, I don't. I don't see that situation ever arising. And really, why would you want Lamar Jackson? Are you going to build an offense? Like, Scott Turner isn't utilizing an offense with Lamar Jackson. Like, you do understand that Scott Turner isn't going anywhere, right? You guys do know this. You are aware, unless Scott Turner gets a head coaching job somewhere, He will be the offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders next year and probably the year after that. As long as Ron's here, Scott Turner's going to be here, more likely than not. We are complaining already about Scott Turner's insistence on running his shit, his scheme, over gearing what he does and fitting that, molding that, shaping it around the talent that he has. We haven't seen a Cole Turner back shoulder fade. We haven't seen a Logan Thomas jump ball in the end. We haven't seen any of that shit in the red zone. He's not scheming a game plan around his talent. He's running a scheme. Do you think he's going to take his scheme that he has handcrafted over years of watching his dad and mosh pit, a hodgepodge of stuff that he's learned over the years? Do you think he's going to just rip that into smithereens, throw that in the air and say, oh, we got Lamar Jackson. All right, let's do what the Ravens were doing? Hell no. So for those of you out there that even entertain that thought, this is not a good fit for Lamar Jackson. Hence, they're not even interested in Lamar Jackson. And the Ravens aren't interested in moving on from Lamar Jackson. And it's not gonna happen. Steve H. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Steve H writes, Lou's not saying, he's just saying. Thank you for keeping it real, Lou. One love from Canada. Shout out to my guy, Steve H from Canada. Y'all know what it is. That's all I know how to do, is try to keep it real with y'all. We don't always agree. Again, we're not always going to agree, but you're going to get the reels from me. So I appreciate you, Steve. Kevin the PRF. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Kevin the PRF writes, even if Wentz is mid the next 2 games and we miss the playoffs, is it the O-line or the OC the first scapegoats before going vet hunting again? Not at the price tag. Not at the price tag. Because you can go and get 3 offensive linemen for the price of what Carson Wentz is being paid right now. That's why we had to release 3 players to fit him under the cap. So I already have admitted that we failed Wentz the first time around earlier this season. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The offensive line wasn't good enough. The play calling wasn't good enough. And then in turn, he wasn't good enough. There was not enough effort to run the football. There were a lot of flaws within what we were asking, scheming, and having Carson Wentz do. That said, you're not going to run it back, because if you were going to do that, you would have just benched Heinicke, even though he was winning games. If your plan all along was to find out if Wentz was the guy or not, you would have just said, hey, once Wentz is healthy, he's our starter. He'll be back in the lineup. And there may have been a bit of uproar about that, but at the end of the day, if your main goal, outside of winning, of course, is to find out if this guy can get it done or not. It's not like Heinicke was out here throwing 3 touchdown passes and no interceptions every week. And you're like, how could you go away from this guy? It's not like he was doing it. We were barely winning games. We were winning, but we were barely winning games. It wasn't because of Heinicke. And oftentimes it was in spite of him until we needed him the most. And that's the thing I loved about him, is when we needed him the most, he'd show up. I.e. the Colts game, i.e. the Packers game, right? There were games where that didn't occur. Vikings game, right? I.e. the Giants game, though, he shows up when we need him the most. But I've already said that's like an arsonist, right? That starts fires and then wants to be the one that calls the fire department or wants to be the one that runs in the building to save someone. But you started the fire. So I can't really give you credit for putting it out or going in to a burning building and saving somebody so you can be crowned as the hero, because you put us in a position where we were in a burning building. So That's where you struggle, right? Scott Turner isn't going anywhere. You can't get rid of an entire offensive line. They're not going to either. It's much easier to change one position than it is to change 6 different positions, one being a coordinator and the other 5 on the offensive line. It's not that dissimilar from saying, are we going to get rid of 53 players because the team sucks, or are we going to get rid of the head coach, one guy, because the team sucks, and in turn his entire staff and get new guys in here? It's easier to do one than the other. Same premise here. It's easier to just say, Wentz, you weren't good enough. We move on, find a different guy. We're going to upgrade the offensive line. Yeah, we're going to do what we need to do to make sure that the offensive line is better. They can't come back with this same group next year and think that it's okay. And I don't expect them to. All right. But they're still going to look at Wentz and say, okay, but he wasn't what we thought he was going to be. Again, especially for the price tag. If you could get a deal done with Wentz that's considerably less, or it's heavy in incentives and he's got to earn it, you may be interested in bringing him back then. But that's not the way his contract's set up right now. So, let's see. Christopher McLaughlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for the super chat and being a member of the MOBB. My guy Chris writes, hey Lou, best wishes to you and your family for a prosperous 2023. Likewise. He writes, why do you think that the team does not go up tempo on O more consistently to generate more explosive plays and become more efficient? So there's been this discussion amongst Ron Rivera, Scott Turner, the media, and fans alike about Heinicke's proficiency in the no huddle. Heinicke has even explained the difference between, end of the first half, end of the game no huddle, which he seems to thrive in, versus going no huddle with 12 minutes left in the second quarter. When you're in those situations late in the half or late in the game, teams are looking to keep everything in front of them. They don't want to give up any explosives. You're getting basic looks. You're not getting a lot of, exotics. And so it's easy to pick that stuff apart. Usually teams have a universal call when you get into no huddle, and they just play base coverage behind it. When you do that in the second quarter, I can still be aggressive. I can still come after you even if you're in no huddle. Also, this is what I think it's more so of with us, why we don't do it. We lead the league in time of possession. Our strength isn't up tempo and trying to catch a certain personnel on the field, trap them, and take advantage of it. Our strength is to wear you down, keep our defense fresh and off the field, keep your offense off the field, keep your defense on the field. Going up tempo is counteractive to that. All right. It actually is something that takes away the advantage that you've created for yourself, which is we're going to win time of possession. Now, I'm all in favor of every now and again spicing things up and going no huddle. I've said this already. I'm not telling you to go Chip Kelly and you're going no huddle and hurry up every single possession on every single play. I'm just telling you every now and again, randomly, 7th drive of the game, out of the blue, no huddle. Why not? If I was a coach, once a game, I would do that randomly. I might start the game in no huddle 1 week. The next week, I start the fourth quarter, my first drive of the fourth quarter, no huddle. The next week, I might only do it right before the half, 2 minutes. We get the football. The next week, second quarter, 7 minutes to go, third drive of the game. I'm in no huddle. Like, I would do it one time in the game. You just wouldn't know when it's coming. You know it's coming. You wouldn't know when it's coming, but I'm going to do it just to change things up. I remember Sean McVay, when he was at his peak in LA with the Rams, he would do this thing where he wouldn't huddle, right? He would just get on the ball quickly. And what it would do, he wouldn't sub. He would just get to the line quick. or they would get in the huddle, right? And then his guys would sprint to the line. They wouldn't sub, so official isn't holding the ball. They wouldn't sub. They get in the huddle. They break the huddle, and they sprint to the line. They all set up, catch you off guard, snap the ball. It's different ways to go about throwing off a defense. All right. Let's see. Got another super chat. This one is from Bobby West. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Wake up, Bobby West. Bobby West. Who writes, hope y'all make it, Louie T, but I'm sorry for the whooping we're going to give y'all in week 18. Honestly, I don't think you're going to need that game. Now, are you going to still play your guys? Maybe. But if Dallas is smart, like most teams, and you don't need week 18, you're going to rest your guys. They might get out there, get a possession or two, play a quarter, maybe even a half. But here's the thing. Cooper Rush is no slouch. And the guys that you're going to put in that aren't Dak Prescott, those guys, we've lost to those guys already this season. So I'm not taking anybody lightly, but I'll take my chances, with beating the Cowboys, with them not having anything to play for, because I think Philadelphia is going to beat New Orleans. You're going to be locked into the 5th seed, and you're not going to have anything to play for in week 18. Now, if you still, beat us up pretty good, then we deserve to be at home. We deserve to be at home. But we got to beat the Browns first, because if we don't, the likelihood is we will not get the same opportunity, okay? I do not see the Lions losing to the Bears this week. I predicted that they would lose to the Panthers last week. I am not predicting, and we'll take a look at all of those teams' schedules. We usually do that on Tuesday. Obviously, I wasn't here on Tuesday, so we'll do that tomorrow. In addition to going behind enemy lines, we'll look at that. May be our behind enemy line segment tomorrow. Is looking at the teams, and now we have a new entrant into the fray in the Green Bay Packers, who all of a sudden are hard charging. This is why the tie is a gift, and it's also a curse, because we beat those bastards. We should own the tiebreaker over them. The tiebreaker now no longer matters with Green Bay because we have a tie. So us beating them head to head doesn't do us any good. It's saving us right now, because if we didn't have it, we probably wouldn't be in. As a matter of fact, there's no probably. We wouldn't be in. If we had lost and we were sitting at 7-8 right now, which would be the same record as the Lions, they'd beat us and they'd be in. But the tie is saving us. But we beat Green Bay head to head, and the tie wouldn't save us in that instance. So anyway, I digress. I don't think y'all are going to need that game, but we'll see. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Mob, Lou, Cole Turner going to eat Sunday. Not saying. I don't know where you got that from. I don't know how that is going to happen. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, if Amani Rodgers is active, Cole Turner isn't active on Sunday. Those two, I don't think, have been active in the same game this season. Maybe Chicago. Turner was active. Rodgers was active. I don't think either of those guys have been active. I don't think those two have been active in the same game. It's usually one or the other. Bates and Thomas are going to be active every week. Those aren't optional. And they're not keeping 4 tight ends on game day. So if Amani Rodgers is back and they feel good about where he is, Cole Turner probably back on the inactive list on Sunday. So I don't know about that one, buddy. We'll see. We will see. DJ, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, my guy, or excuse me, DJ. Right, Scott Turner has to be on his game. I vouch for Wentz, but Scott can't go full Madden mode now that Wentz is starting. Hope it works out. Hashtag HTTC. There have been a lot of people vouching for Wentz to get another opportunity with this revamped, offensive line and strategy that we've, deployed in terms of running the football, being more balanced. Yeah, Scott Turner can't forget those things. He can't ignore how we got here. I think that has to be an emphasis that Ron Rivera puts on him. But Ron did say, and when I heard this, I said, "Uh-oh." I don't know if you guys heard it and thought the same thing, or maybe you didn't hear it, but he was pretty much asked that exact same question. Like, or a comment was made, but it was more in the form of a question to the effect of, "Hey, can't forget how you got here. Now that Wentz is back, is there this inclination to want to throw it, like they did earlier this season?" And Ron was like, "Look, we're going to do whatever we think is necessary to win the football game." I'm like, "Uh-oh." That's not what I want to hear. I wanted to hear, we're going to do the things that got us to this point, and we have a philosophy. We have a plan in place. We want to stick with it. And, when Wentz gets his opportunities, we want him to take advantage, like something to that effect. Ron was like, "Bro, we're going to do whatever we need to win." And if he didn't say this part, but that's what I'm inferring. If that means Wentz has to throw it 39 times, so be it. Oy vey. I'm just saying, just be on the lookout. Just be on the lookout this Sunday. They get a little bit of success throwing the football, and you can see an instance where Wentz throws it 37 times unnecessarily, I may add. It's not like we're down big in the game and we have to have, like we were in Detroit, and he has to throw it. It could just be one of those games where Scott just says, "F it. I believe in Carson. This is what I wanted to do all along anyway. I'm going to do it." We'll see. John Livingston, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, JL Smith, writes, "Lou, putting aside football for the moment, here in Buffalo, we are hurting, but finally recovering. This blizzard was like anything I've ever seen. Hurricane force winds with whiteout conditions, 40 plus deceased, more to come." I saw a video of a truck driving down the street, and I think most of you have seen this video, with every bit of 6 to 7 inches to maybe 10 inches of snow on his truck as he's driving down the street. I've never seen anything like it in my life. That is, we talked about this the last time it snowed heavily, and you talked about being trapped at work and inside, and he was like, I never want to feel that way again. This is why places like there are dangerous, because you just never know when you're going to get this kind of pounding. All the things align, you get that lake effect snow, and all of a sudden it's just coming down in buckets, man, and it doesn't stop. And that shit is dangerous. And I pray for those who are being impacted. I remember we had some snow last year, knocked the power out. And I just remember thinking at one point, we're going to have to get out of here. Remember, last year, this time, the twins were just born, right? So you got these, 1 month old, 3-week old twins here, no heat. We're all bundled up in one room, candles lit, trying to stay warm. Can you imagine that in those frigid temperatures? It wasn't, 6 degrees here. It wasn't -2 degrees with the wind chill. It wasn't -12 with the wind chill. It was in the 20s. And we didn't go 3-4 days without power. We went hours, but we didn't know when the power was going to come on. That shit was scary. So I can only imagine what that's like being in a situation times 10. So my heart goes out to all of those being affected. I can't begin to explain nor describe what that feels like, because again, I've never been in a situation quite like that. But prayers go up, and I'm hoping blessings come down. But prayers are definitely going up for those being impacted in the Buffalo and surrounding areas that have been impacted. It was cold everywhere. We literally were leaving Virginia, and it was going to be cold all weekend. And I remember saying to my wife, man, we're getting out of here at the right time. Every single day we're going to be gone, including the day we were leaving, it was in the 20s. And she was like, did you see the weather in Atlanta? I'm like, nah, but it can't be any worse than this. She was like, shit. And I put it up, and it was like identical, even colder on certain days. I was like, that's not supposed to be the case down south. There were snow flurries in the game on Sunday, on Christmas Day with the Dolphins. It's snow flurries in Miami. I can only imagine what it was like in upstate New York. I can only imagine what it was like up north. There was a pounding being taken there, and my heart goes out to everyone involved. Stay safe, JL Smooth. Please, you and your family and your loved ones. Stay safe, man. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy, Chris. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Chris writes, hey, Lou, what would you do to help Wentz develop chemistry necessary to get Terry 10 to 12 targets per game, specifically with challenges of play calling? I mean, there's really nothing you can do. That's on Scott Turner to get him those types of looks. I've been an advocate. If you want Terry to touch it more, the quick game is the way to do it. Slants. We don't run enough slants with Terry. That's the easiest way to get the ball in the hands. Hitches. Sometimes you get corners, especially when they're not confident or they're blitzing. You get corners 7, 8, 9 yards off. Turn around and get it to him immediately, right? I would rather that be Curtis Samuel in those situations because he can make a guy miss, but still. If you want Terry to have 10 to 12 targets, that's on Scott Turner to dial it up. But you got so many weapons, 10 to 12 targets with the way we play. Because keep in mind, if we have 60 snaps in a game, our target in terms of running the football is every bit of 30 to 35 runs if we're being successful. I mean, let's take a look at the last few games. So we had 33 rush attempts. There were 69 plays in the game. 33 were runs. So there were 36 passing plays in the game for Washington. All right. 36 passing plays. Of those passing plays, you want a third of them to go to Terry, roughly 10 to 12. But you still got Jahan, you still got Curtis, you still got the backs out of the backfield, you still got the tight ends like De'Ami Brown if he gets a toss or two. Like there are other guys that you have to get the ball to. It's tough when you're running it as much as we are. We're not Buffalo, we're not Kansas City. We don't get 69 plays and 48 of them are passes. Then you can get a fourth of them to Terry and still have enough to spread around to the rest of the crew. But if you've got 70 plays and 34, 35 of them, half of them roughly are runs, well, a third of the pass plays can't just go to one guy. It's just highly unlikely. I mean, it can, but it's highly unlikely. I mean, I liken it to Justin Jefferson. He's getting probably 15 targets a game, right? But the Vikings are probably throwing it. They're running it with Dalvin Cook. Let's just go to the last game because it feels like Justin Jefferson gets 15 targets a game. That's what it feels like. So let's just go there and see what he did last game. And this give you a little bit of a barometer. They played the Giants. Justin Jefferson had 16 targets. Like I said, he gets like 15 a game. 12 catches, 133 yards and a touchdown. So that it helps when you get 16 targets, you catch 12 of them for 133 yards. That helps. But the Vikings ran 71 plays. Only 19 were runs. This was a game that was close throughout. There was never a deficit where they had to turn strictly to the pass. They had 71 plays, only 19 of them were runs, which means roughly 52 plays in the game were passes. You can throw it to one guy 16 times when you're throwing it 52 times in the game. You see where I'm going with this? I'll go to another game for the Vikings. The game before that, that's not a good example, when they had to throw it 8 million times against the Colts because they were losing by so much. This game against the Jets, this is a good game right here. This was a close game, but they had the lead for much of the game. Let's see what they did here. Jefferson, 11 targets, okay, in this game. Didn't have a great game. 7 catches, 45 yards, okay? Let's see what the count was. And now, this is a game where the Jets dominated time possession, number of snaps, all that good stuff. 66 total plays, 29 of them rushes. So just under half were runs, but Jefferson didn't have as many targets. You see how that happens? Those targets come down a bit when you're not getting as many plays and you're not throwing it as much. That's who we are at our core. At our crux, we're a run team. So you're pulling down the amount of passing attempts. And Jefferson is one of the most dominant receivers, if not the most dominant receiver in the game right now. And even he doesn't get as many attempts. Now, you said 10 to 12. He got 11 in that game, targets. But even his numbers come down when you don't have as many plays. I mean, let's look at the game when we played them. He killed us. I think he had 7 catches, 140 yards or something like that, right? Let's go to our game. When we played them. But we dominated time of possession of this game. 13 targets. 7 catches, 115 yards. They had 65 plays. We didn't dominate time of possession. It was pretty much equal. They had 65 plays, and 22 of them were runs. So essentially a third of them were runs. So 2/3 of their plays were passes. You can throw it to Justin Jefferson. How many times did I say he got it in that game? Targeted 13. You can throw it to him 13 times. That's not us. It's more of a balanced attack. We're running it a lot more. So there's a lot less opportunities for the receivers and a guy like Terry to get those targets. So that's what you have to keep in mind and into consideration is if you want guys, and that's why it's a catch-22, because when we don't run it, to me, the strength of our team are the 3 receivers. But everyone's so fixated on running, and because we don't have an elite, if we had a Josh Allen, if we had a Patrick Mahomes, if we had a Joe Burrow, if we had a Justin Herbert, then we can say to hell with the run game. Like the Chargers do. The Chargers don't run the ball at all. I'll just give you, and the Chargers are a different team. They're wired differently, but it's because they can do that with Justin Herbert. That's the reason that they're allowed to do that. But I'll just give you an example here. Let's see. I'm going to find the Chargers game. Let's go. They played the Cardinals. I think this is going to be a good game here. They had 64 plays. Both teams had 64 plays in the game. The Chargers ran it 13 times out of 64 snaps. Justin Herbert threw it 47 times in that game. That just gives you an idea of what they think about the run game. But they can do that because number 10 is that dude, okay? You can get away with that. There are games where Josh Allen throws the ball 48 times. They only run it 14 times. You can do that because Josh Allen is that guy. We don't have one of those. So our strength is minimized, even though we keep talking about there isn't a team in the league that I think can stop our three receivers. You may be able to slow one or two of those. You can't slow down all three. We slow them down by running the football and not getting them the ball more, because that's who we are. That's who we have to be in order to have a chance. That's frustrating for me. That's frustrating for me because I think about that Giants game, the second one, and the best drive of the game, Heinicke was 5 of 5, and the only run on the drive was a reverse to De'Ami Brown, and that went for like 18 yards, 18 or 21 yards or whatever it was. Heinicke was 5 of 5 for like 69 yards or whatever on that drive in a touchdown to Jahan Dotson. It was one of the best drives of the season for us. There's one run on it. And to me, that's what we can be, because I don't think anybody can stop our receivers. But we bog ourselves down by, we got to make sure we run the football. And so many of you subscribe to this, notion that we got to run the football every single week. And they stop us on first, run it again. And now it's 3rd and 8. Now you want to know why we're 1 of 11 on third downs, because you ran it on first down. You didn't get shit. You ran it on second down. You didn't get shit again. And now it's 3rd and long. I'm not telling you not to run the football. But I'm like, hey, don't be afraid to throw that bitch either. That's our strength. Those three receivers. But it's only a strength if the line and the quarterback do their jobs as well, right? The line does their job to give the quarterback time, and in the time that he receives, he makes the most of it to get those playmakers involved. That's where we kind of run into our problem. But that's where the balance comes in. That's where the play calling comes in. That's the job of Scott Turner, to figure out how do we maximize what we have. Don't always feel like that's being done, but whatever. John Livingston, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, on to football. Won't take up too many spots because I know y'all got a big game. But Lou, Cincy this week on Monday Night Football, Chris Sims said Trey is a shell of himself. There's no way we can run the ball. Bet. I am looking forward to it. This is the best. I think this is the best primetime game we're going to get all season long. It's got a potential. And so much is at stake here. Buffalo wins this game, they're more likely than not going to end up with the number 1 seed in the AFC. Now, they got to play it all the way. No, they win that game, they clinch the number 1 seed, because then there's no way Kansas City can catch them, right? Because they beat Kansas City head-to-head. So, for all intents and purposes, this is Buffalo clinching the number 1 seed overall in the AFC, which I think is important for them if they want to make it to the Super Bowl. But the crazy part is, if Cincinnati wins this game, if Kansas City slips up somewhere along the way, and they've got 2 games left in the division, Denver this week, the Raiders next week, they slip up once in the final 2 weeks. Highly unlikely, with Denver getting rid of their coach and the Raiders benching Derek Carr. Highly unlikely, but stranger things have happened. The Bengals could get the number 1 seed. I said all of that to say this. That game is going to be crazy. And it could be a preview of the AFC Championship game. I mean, that's a big one there. That's going to be fun. Bart Scott. Can't wait. The Booty Creek Cheek Freak. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, I felt like that last 49ers touchdown was personal. They had the game won. Instead of kicking a field goal, they went for it on 4th down. Of course it was personal. Of course it was personal. Kyle Shanahan is going to stick it to this organization every chance that he gets. He already said he cannot stand this organization for what they did to his father. It's not about him anymore. He didn't care about him. He's like, hey, look, I got plenty of time to kill them. That was it for my dad. That left a taste in people's mouths that they couldn't get rid of. And I don't think it's going to cost his dad the Hall of Fame, because I think his dad is a Hall of Fame coach. His contribution to the NFL cannot be understated. He won 2 Super Bowls back to back. I think he's still going to get in. But without that last salvo in Washington, he's probably already in the Hall of Fame. That left a bitter taste in a lot of people's mouths. He's not happy about that shit. And every chance he gets to stick it to us, he's going to do that. Remember when they beat us 6-0 back in 2019 and that slop fest with all that rain, and they were sliding on the field and shit? Oh, I think it might have been 9-0. They beat us 9-0. You remember that game? Yeah. And he was hyped in the locker room afterwards. He can't stand us. I don't blame him. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. King of the North writes, the only onside kick worth kicking is the 15 to 20 yard pop-up kick. I see more of those recovered than anything else. Second option is to drill it into the hands team. What we did should be scratched. That was terrible. You know, I don't know. I think I've only seen one kicker execute the fake one way, kick it the other way, and actually kick it well enough for his team to have a chance. Honestly speaking, if you can do this, and it's hard to do this, you got to be a beast to do this. But like you said, I'd water boy style it. I'd find a bitch. You scan that first line of guys, because normally the hands guy is behind the first wave. The first wave is really there to just protect. The hands guy is usually in the back, right? I'm finding the dude that really has no business being on the hands team, who really doesn't want the ball to come to him. He just wants to pound into somebody. That's the dude I'm kicking it to as hard as I can, with as much velocity as possible. He's not going to catch it. But can you kick it directly to a guy? Are you accurate enough as a kicker to pick out a guy and like just drill it to him and have it bang off of his shoulder pad and give you a chance to recover it? I can't think of any kickers that are that good kicking the football. So that would be what I would want to do, is just kick it as hard as I can to one dude and hope that it bounces off his knee or, bounces off his shoulder pad. He tries to catch it. He bobbles it. Now it's a scrum for it. What we did, like you said, should never be done again. You're better off just trying to get that lucky bounce and be done with it than that crap we did. That was a piss poor, pathetic excuse for an onside kick. That looked like a high schooler trying some shit. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Big Money Sonny, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, "Sup, Lou? Sup, Big Money Sonny?" Says, been a minute. It has. It really, truly has. Happy holidays to you and yours, man. Says, just wanted to wish you and the fam happy holidays. So we on the same page. Oh, yeah. This team blows. Thanks, Ron. This is completely on you. You'll be back for the playoffs. We're going to make it. Big Money Sonny. We're going to make it. One game at a time. Got to beat the Browns first. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, King of the North, writes, I buy into the theory that Wentz being able to see over the line allows him to fire it out quicker, especially over the middle of the field. If he can hit guys in stride, the yards after catch can pile up. Being able to see over the line is a real thing. That's a real thing. The throws over the middle, I think, are the ones that are the most affected by shorter quarterbacks, because it requires you to put a little bit more touch on the ball because you can't quite see all of the defenders. That said, Wentz, remember the throw against the Lions over the middle of the field that he airmailed Logan Thomas, who was open, that ended up being a pick? That was one of the few drives that we didn't score on in the second half when they couldn't stop us. That was the only drive that they did stop us during that stretch. You don't have to be a shorter quarterback to misfire over the middle of the field. But to your point, it's easier to see who's open, identify, get it out quicker when you're able to see over the line. But look, Drew Brees did it for years as a short quarterback. So I usually don't pay that stuff any attention. If you're capable, you're capable. Deshaun Bell, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Deshaun Bell writes, it's been a while since the LTN community got a welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Can we get one in honor of Amani Rodgers coming back? Indeed. So good. Again, now I don't want to jump the gun. He just returned from IR. The window is open. Doesn't mean he's playing this week. But the likelihood is if everything goes well, he will be back this weekend. That's a welcome sign for a team that could use, a dynamic player at the tight end position. That's for sure. Let's see. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Lou, you think everyone is luck? I do. If you don't want me to think you're luck, don't have a vague comment that's open-ended, that's asking a question from some rando I've never look, some people just don't super chat and they finally do. And they have a very vague question or something that they ask that makes them feel luckish. I'm going to err on the side of caution. I'm sorry. If you don't want me to think that you're luck, have a well thought out, precise question that either asks something specific that isn't going to end in D's nuts or make a comment that we can talk about. But you used like the Rick comment, the first one. Come on, man. You guys had to think that was luck too, right? Anyway, you got all types of super chats catching strays. Real talk. Luck is having some medical issues right now. Prayers. Is that real? Is Luck, not doing well? I had no knowledge of this. If this is true, and Luck has done some really sinister shit. So even when I'm supposed to be like taking a serious tone, like he's used someone's sister's birthday as a he's done some twisted shit. So I'm gonna assume that you're not Luck posing as Big Money Sonny right now. I'm just gonna assume that you're Big Money Sonny and you're telling me the truth, and that Luck is having medical issues. Prayers to the big homie, man. Like, what the hell? Why wasn't I made aware of this? Shout out to Luck. During this holiday season, man, I wish you nothing but the best, bro. Speedy recovery. Hopefully the team can get a dub for you, man, and make that recovery even easier. But prayers up, man. Hopefully blessings rain down, but prayers up to our guy Luck. If you're out there, man, send one up in the sky for him. Thank you for notifying me. I'm still not letting my guard down, but it doesn't put me at ease, but I don't have my hand on my holster anymore. Now the holster's still open, but I don't have my hand on the holster anymore. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, King of the North, writes, the past few games, the D has allowed 98 plus yard scoring drives that started with us having them pinned against the goal line. Those deflate us. Any thoughts on what's going on wrong there? Well, if I'm watching film on Washington, I'm going some sort of boot down there. That's how you get the drive. Because in any drive, especially ones when you're pinned up against your own, the first down is the biggest first down. Because you don't want to get, pinned down there on 3rd and 9 and you're up against your own goal line. Now you're being conservative. You're just not even looking for the first down at this point. You're just looking for room for the punter, right? You don't want to do anything stupid. Second down, like the first down is usually a run. If you're an aggressive play caller, you might try to play action fake, throw it on first down. But second down is the down where you should be looking for play action fake or boot. And the Giants got us with one and ended up getting like 17 yards. And all of a sudden, they're at their own 20 after starting at their own one. And now they can get comfortable and get into their shit. I think the 49ers had a similar type of play. Little play action fake, boot, get a guy out in space, get it to him quickly. And next thing you know, they're off and running, That's our problem. We don't handle misdirection very well. We haven't handled it well all season. When somebody comes in motion across the formation or, the tight end starts out blocking and then he leaks out into the flats, now you got a 2-on-1 fast break. You either as the defensive end, you either take the quarterback or you run with the tight end. If you run with the tight end, the quarterback's going to keep it and run. If you go after the quarterback, he's going to toss it to the tight end. So you got to pick. We always choose the quarterback, hope we can get our hands up and bat it in the air. Never happens. Throw it to the tight end, and he's rambling down the field. We've got to be better. In those situations, you'd much rather play zone. A lot of times we get caught in man down there. And those boots are great man beaters because if you got a guy running from the other side of the field and you run interference, you're going to have a chance to have a guy wide open, and that's what's been happening to us. And once you give up that first down, do you know how deflating it is as a defender when you got a team pinned up at their own 1 or 2, and then they pop one for 18, and now they're at the 20? You had your chance now. Now you're on your heels. Now you're like, damn, we missed an opportunity. You can still rebound. You got plenty of time to rebound, but now it's like a snowball effect. So, yeah. Those are tough. Those are tough. John Livingston, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JL Smooth, 105.3, writes, Lou, what do you think about Tua? Having probably his third concussion in, 3 months? While I'm biased, I hate Miami. They are failing him. I talked about this on the podcast. His season should be done, but you have to start thinking about his career. You got to understand these 3 concussions aren't the first Tua's had in his career. He had concussions at Alabama. We're not even counting the ones that he may have had in high school, may or may not have had in high school. Like, this is dangerous. I don't really know what's going to become of his career, but I talked about this. He's one of those guys that doesn't do a good job of protecting himself. There's certain guys that just aren't great at protecting themselves. Robert Griffin III was one of those guys. Fragile frame. Tua is another one, fragile frame, but doesn't do a good job of bracing himself for contact or getting out of the way, minimizing, taking big shots. Every time Tua gets hit, it seems like his head is the first thing that hits the ground. He's never bracing for contact. He's never finding a way to contort his body so that his head isn't hitting the ground first. Every time he's in an awkward position, his head hits the ground first. Never puts his elbows down to brace for contact or something like that. You much rather, break your wrist or, hurt your forearm trying to break your fall than to hit your head. You can surgically repair your wrist. You can't surgically repair your brain. Once it's damaged, it's damaged. Technically you could surgically repair a brain, but once it's damaged, it's damaged. So I think his career, it's going to be shortened, I think, because these are reoccurring problems for him. McCready, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, thanks for all you do. Thank you for all your support. You're the reason why I really love hearing and immersing myself in this team as a newer fan. What would Wentz have to do for you to bring him back? I'm thinking a playoff win. I'm thinking the same thing. I'm thinking not getting there is enough. You know, not just getting there is enough. I think you actually have to win a game for this fan base to be like, all right, let's run it back, you know, and see if you give him this same opportunity with a better improved offensive line, these same weapons, running it back, defense is improved, you know, run game, all of that good stuff. A full year under your belt under Scott Turner now. You have a better handle of the offense. You get a full off season. Yeah, let's run it back and see. I think that's what he would have to do to, and there's still going to be people out there that's, oh, Wentz sucks. Don't bring him back. Get a quarterback. But I think you'd have enough support. You'd have enough reason to convince yourself that, hey, we can run this back and see what it really holds for us. If he could find a way to win these last two games, get us to the playoffs, and then go to Minnesota, which is more likely than not going to be the outcome, and win a game, which is very possible. All right. But you got to get there first. You know, got to get there first. So, yeah, I think that's what it's going to take. I agree with you. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, King of the North, writes, I was pleased to hear Ron speak about fixing the fact that the pass rush couldn't touch D. Jones and to a lesser extent Purdy because they threw tons of quick hitters. Our cornerbacks have to press up on the wide receivers. My problem with any statement that's made is, bro, you've been doing this for how long? You're a football lifer. And it took Daniel Jones. We didn't touch Aaron Rodgers. The offensive line for the Packers was struggling. What did you think they were going to do? What did you think they were going to do in that game with Rodgers after he was molested the week before by the Jets and hurt his thumb in that game? What did you think they were going to do when Rodgers said during the week leading up to the game against Washington, we're going to simplify things? What did you think they were going to do? Yet our guys are playing 7 yards off, and they're throwing these quick underneath passes, and Rodgers is back there standing relatively clean. What did you think was going to happen? Daniel Jones did it the first game. What did you think was going to happen the second game? Daniel Jones was 15 of 16 in the first game. The only incompletion was a spike before halftime to set up a field goal. It's dink and dunk city. How many times is he going to throw it to Saquon Barkley in the flats before you come up and stop it? Are you kidding me? I get it. Juice isn't healthy. You don't want Danny Johnson getting beat over the top. I understand. You're going to have to make some adjustments. But you're not getting to the other team's quarterback if all he has to do is a 3-step drop, back foot hits the ground, and get rid of it. You're not getting to anybody. It's not rocket science. Sometimes I feel like guys make it hard. Again, if you know what coverage you're playing, as a defender, your job is to come up and give your line or linebackers or whomever a chance. If you're a coordinator and you don't trust your secondary, then you can't have them come up. It makes it tough, which is why we need help in the secondary. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, King of the North, writes, Craig Hoffman said, Scott Turner was a great play designer and a good teacher, but a bad play caller. His inability to set up counterpunches and poor situational awareness make him a subpar OC. This rang true. Scott Turner knows football. He's not a dummy. He's been raised in football. His dad was one of the greatest offensive coordinators of the last 25, 30 years, right? Probably last 40 years. One of the better offensive coordinators, okay? Troy Aikman swears by him. Swears by North Turner. He's not alone. Okay? Scott Turner knows ball. He knows how to get guys open. I've already explained this to you. And I've told you guys numerous times. He's not a dummy. A lot of you just think this guy's incompetent, doesn't know what he's doing. I'm like, that's not the case. Scott Turner is well aware of what's going on. My biggest issue is that he doesn't adjust to his personnel. He's my scheme works over, I'm going to fit and adjust to the skill set of my players. So he's not going to use someone's size to his advantage. He'd rather run 3 shallow crosses and hope someone comes open that way. He'd rather run a high-low read and hope someone gets a guy to make a mistake and take advantage of it that way, instead of taking advantage of a size mismatch or a speed or a quickness mismatch. My problem with him has always been situational awareness, the inability to understand what is necessary on this particular play or in this particular setting or this particular set of downs. He's unaware of how the game flow is going or what guy gives him the best opportunity to succeed. Great point. And case in point against the 49ers. It's 4th and 1. I don't care that Brian Robinson has had 3 consecutive carries down here. Unless Brian Robinson is telling you, I have to come out, I am useless on this next snap, he should be in the game. And if he's telling me that in the first half of this game, you know what I'm going to do? Give me a timeout. Brian, come over here, get you a swig of water. Your ass is going back in because we're handing you this bitch on 4th and 1. We can't afford to give the ball to Antonio Gibson. Sorry, not sorry. Told you, I don't give a shit what you do with first half timeouts. I care about second half timeouts. Brian Robinson should be in the game. That is why you have him. Situationally, he failed us. Because sometimes he's not in charge of the personnel. Sometimes, sometimes the coaching staff is in charge. The running backs coach is in charge of sifting in backs. As a guy taps out, the coach is in control of who goes in the game. And Scott adjusts his play call to who's in the game. But in that instance, my play call is a run to a back. It's B-Rob. You're going to run a quarterback sneak. Remember, we were one of the first teams to do the tight end in motion, and then he gets under center. And who's stopping Logan Thomas from getting 6 inches? Anybody? Stopping a 6'6" guy from getting under center? I don't give a shit if Logan Thomas is going to quarterback sneak it. Are they going to stop Logan Thomas from getting? I know they can stop, 202-pound, 6 foot, 5'11" quarterback from getting it. Can they stop a 6'6" tight end from getting it though? 260 pounds, 255 pounds? I mean, where's the psychological sense? If you're gonna go for it that deep in you got to give yourself the best chance. The best chance is with your 6'6" tight end who used to play quarterback. Help me. We see all kinds of creativity around the league. It comes to us and it's just, it doesn't make sense. And we've seen this stuff from Scott before. It's like he's gotten worse and worse situationally as he's gotten more and more talent. The less talent he had, the more creative he was, and the more situationally aware he was. The more talent he gets, the less situationally aware he is, and the less creative he gets. It just boggles the mind. Some of it I get. I get not having to be as creative when you've got talent. I get that. But you shouldn't be any more situationally aware. That should never change. McAllister Nicholas, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. McAllister Nicholas writes, happy holidays. Likewise to you and yours. Long time. It has been a while. Why can't we run Gibby outside? Do we even run pickoff plays? we do run pick plays. We ran one against the Giants, and they called us for OPI on the 2-point conversion. We don't run them a lot, but when we run them, it seems like we always get ourselves into trouble. We always get called for OPI. Seems like it. Gibby should be running more outside. And they usually try to keep, get him out on the edges, but a lot of the stuff that they do is short side of the field. I don't love it a lot of the times, but they used to do a better job of getting Gibson outside. They haven't of late done a good job of getting him outside. But again, we'll see. We don't even know if he's going to play this week, to be honest. So, DJ23, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. DJ23 writes, double up. I feel like this is a double up. I could be wrong. Says, with Wentz back, I'm glad to see us stretch the field. I want the first play to be play action down the field to Jahan or Diami. Also, happy holidays. Likewise. That would be aggressive. I wouldn't mind that, because if I'm the Browns, I just expect. I'd venture to say that the first play of every game since week 7 has probably been a run. I'm actually curious about that. And I'm going to go and check right now and see what the first play of the game has been. I'm pretty sure, if I had to guess, if I had to put money down, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the first play of just about every game this season has been a run. We're going to start with the Packers game. We're going to see what the first play of the game was for Washington. Brian Robinson up the middle for a run against the Packers. Colts game. First play of the game was a Heinicke short pass to Gibson for 16 yards. So that wasn't a run. So we're 1 for 2 there. Vikings game. First play of the game was a run by Brian Robinson. All right. So that's 2 out of 3 games we've run it on first down. Philadelphia game on Monday Night Football. I'm pretty sure this was a run. Brian Robinson up the middle, run against Philadelphia. So 3 out of 4 games. Texans game. I think this one might be a pass, because we went 3 and out, if I'm not mistaken, on our first possession. And I think it was because Brian Robinson for 1 yard against the Texans. So 4 out of 5 games, we ran it to start the game off. Falcons game. First play for Washington is a deep pass to Terry. So 4 out of 6. Giants game, the first time around, first play was a Brian Robinson run for 5 yards. So 5 out of 7. Second Giants game, first play of that game had to be a run, because Robinson was killing them. Yeah, that was a 7-yard Brian Robinson run. 6 out of 8. And first play of the game against the Niners was definitely a run. I remember that. Negative 2-yard run by Brian Robinson. So that is 7 out of 9 games Heinicke started. We've run it. And if you go back to the first game, 6 games, which Wentz started, Jacksonville game, our first play was a pass. Lions game, our first play was a pass. You see where we're going with this? Eagles game, our first play was a run to Curtis Samuel. All right. Cowboys game, our first play was a run to Antonio Gibson for 4 yards. Titans game was a first play run to Antonio Gibson for 3 yards. So now it's 3 out of 5. We've run it. And game 6 against the Bears, which was his last start, Brian Robinson run. So 4 out of the 6 games we ran it on the first play of the game for Wentz, and 7 out of the 9 games. So 11 out of the 15 games we've played so far, we have run it. So play action pass, deep shot would actually be what you call what you would call a tendency break. Don't even think we've ever taken a deep shot this season on the first play. So that's a tendency break. You expect Washington to come out and run it. That wouldn't be a bad idea, actually. DJ 23. Carlton Bagano Jackson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, CPJ, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, what's good, Lou? It's been a minute. All love. Likewise. Keep doing your thing, man. Appreciate you as always. Look forward to chopping up with you. And happy holidays to you and yours. So nobody brought up the whole Hogs controversy. Nobody brought up the hog and the name. Tutty. I'm shocked no one brought it up tonight. I don't care, personally. Maybe that's why none of you brought it up. You don't give a damn either. It doesn't move me, doesn't move the needle. We kind of knew that the mascot was going to be a hog. The name Tutty, it's a clever name, but we don't score any, so it's kind of ironic. It's a little bit of irony there, but at the end of the day, that's a mess with the Hogs and all of that good stuff. I don't care about that shit, personally. Anyway, I digress. I just care about beating the Cleveland Browns, honestly speaking. I could give 2 shits about the mascot and, all of that shit and the revealing of it. That shit's right over my head. All I care about is finding a way to get 1 game closer to making the postseason, which is what I'm hoping we do on Sunday. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders Nightly News Live. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys again tomorrow. We'll give the tickets away on Friday. On Friday's show when I give my predictions out. And so, again, use the hashtag in the comment section of this video. So after this video is done, you have to then go back and leave the comment in the comment section, hashtag Doodoo Brown. All right. I'll make sure I pin it so you know exactly how to spell it. Got to be precise here, folks. All right. And I'll leave that in the comment section. Be a member of the MOBB, be a member of Patreon. You'll have a chance to get these tickets. So in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys. Again, I'm not quite sure how everything's going to go. I'm gonna be out of the office again later this week, celebrating New Year's. So it might be janky again. I'm not gonna lie to you. The last time I did the 49ers game, I was a little lit. I may have appeared sleepy. There was reasons for that. I'm hoping to not, succumb to the same fate this time around, but I can't give you any promises, So we'll see how everything goes. But you'll get a video from me tomorrow, and you'll get a video. We'll be live after the Cowboys game on Thursday Night Football. You'll get a video from me on Friday with the prediction and keys to the game, all that good stuff. And then obviously I'll be live during the game for the mob, after the game for everyone. And we'll go about it that way. But again, it won't be your normal bells and whistles. So just be wary of that. But anyway, I got one more super chat on the way out. This is from DJ23. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. He says, this is my double up. Okay, so double up. I don't know why. I think I was staring at your name on my screen. I think like it was stuck on your first super chat, and I just thought that was your second one for some reason. I don't know. Says, this is my double up. After watching the game film, the O-line is terrible almost every play. Somebody's getting manhandled and missing blocks are getting put on their butts. I mean, I didn't think they were that bad against the 49ers until the fourth quarter. Heinicke had time in the game. Ron, said that the line wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. This is the problem with the line. Every game there are, 3 or 4 plays where it's a catastrophe. It's not just a guy getting beat. It's a guy getting beat and giving up a sack, forced fumble, or something to that effect. That's the problem. It's not just a regular sack or, he just got that ball away. It's incomplete because he got hit as he was throwing it. But no, it's like catastrophe. Guys getting hit. It's happened 3 games in a row. It happened both Giants games, and it happened in the 49ers game. And we lost all 3 of them. Like, that's the problem, is that we're getting hit, ball's coming out, we're fumbling, and the other team's recovering it. So that's a problem. But anyway, I digress. You guys have a good one. Take care. I'll see you guys tomorrow. God bless, and good night.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's